Hey guys, welcome back. We are on the afternoon session of day 7 of the dismembered wife murder trial, and Nicholas Kassotis, in all of his wisdom, and I do say that with sarcasm, has decided that it was in his best interest to testify. So we listened to almost 3 hours of BS this morning. If you missed it, you should go back and listen to it. Cuz it And if you don't like my commentary, you might want to listen to it somewhere else because a lot of commentary. Mainly because this man defames my profession in his lies. And you can't hear anything I'm saying. I don't know what is going on with my mic. I'm yelling. Oh, now it's green. Is that better? Green usually means louder. Is that better? Please tell me it's better. Please, please, please. Let me go to settings again. I don't know what in the world I'm going to do with this stupid mic. It's driving me nuts. Ah! Stupid mic. Stupid mic. You got 5 dots and you're only going up to 2 and I'm yelling. Stupid mic. Work. Stupid mic. Stupid mic. Work. Anyway, I'll just yell. As I was saying, the man defames my profession when he lies about how she died. So, yeah, I have stuff to say about it. Now we get to cross. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't. I guess I need a new mic.
Is this better? This is just the mic from the computer. Like, not this mic at all. Just the computer. Is this any better than that mic? No, okay. What with that, Mike? The green is the whole 5 things are filled up.
How about now? I don't know what's wrong with it. If I click on automatically adjust mic volume, my volume slider goes away. If I unclick automatically adjust mic volume, I get a slider that I can adjust. So I can adjust it full to 200. I don't know. I'll just yell.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Counsel, you may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do this.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Kassotis, or Mr. Stark, you indicated that you were a officer in the Judge Advocate General Corps, correct?
Yes, I was.
And you were in that capacity for over 10 years, right?
Roughly 10 years.
You went to Boston University College.
Yes, I did.
You went to Northeastern Law for your JD.
Yes, I did.
And then you got your LLM in cybersecurity from Georgetown, correct?
It was in national security with a emphasis in cybersecurity.
Okay. All prestigious schools, right?
Yes.
You did very well in school, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And as a JAG officer, you indicated that you were both a defense attorney and a prosecutor during your term as an officer in the JAG.
Yes, ma'am.
Be fair to say that the Navy requires JAG officers to be very on top of your cases, right?
Absolutely.
To be careful with records, correct?
Correct.
To be careful with what you send to whom, correct?
Absolutely.
You check and double check pretty much everything, right? Right? You never looked at Jim McIntyre's credential, right? Now, I just want to start with some of the things that. This is the photograph. This is the photograph from Home Depot. That's you. That's you, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And that receipt that's attached to that from November 29th of 2022. That's also you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Says your name on the receipt, correct?
I believe it does, yes.
It also says that you bought the Milwaukee
Bravo!
knife on November 29th of 2022 at 8:56 a.m., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you saw the testimony from Special Agent Bernie with the FBI, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I did.
And that showed that your vehicle, your phone, and your business record put you in the vicinity of that Home Depot, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You don't dispute that, do you?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And in fact, you then watched as he showed all of the different waypoints of your vehicle traveling down towards Riceboro, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't dispute that that was your car, right?
No, ma'am.
You don't dispute that that was your phone, right?
No, ma'am.
And you don't dispute that that was you in the vehicle at the time?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. You saw the records introduced concerning the 2022 Ford Explorer purchased from J.C. Lewis, correct?
Correct.
And I'm pointing to 1.19. Do you recall seeing those business records introduced here in court?
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't dispute that you bought that car, correct?
I do not dispute that.
You don't dispute you paid cash for it?
It was a check, but yeah.
It was the
Conversationally, yeah, you paying cash rather than financing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you bought that car under your own name, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And that purchase was,
I believe it was July 27th of 2022.
right, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you bought that vehicle, that did not have a police intercept package on that vehicle, correct?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure what a police intercept package is, though.
Right. Because if it did, you would have paid extra for options, right?
Right. I mean, there were options on there that I did pay extra for. I assume that anything else would have been also additional.
You're
Now-
going to start with that?
You also purchased $2.25C. Not this specific kit, but one that looked just like it, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
This was a 7-piece deer processing kit, correct?
That's what it says, ma'am.
Well, you saw the business records from Bass Pro, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And they indicated that you purchased item, is that right?
Ma'am.
You don't,
No, ma'am.
and it's your testimony
That is correct.
that you were not going hunting on November 29th of 2000. And just so we're clear, I'm going to show you States Exhibits 1.21, 1.22, 1.23, and 1.24. Do you recognize that car?
Looks like the same make and model car that I had.
And you don't dispute that you were down in a large wooded area on November 29th of 2022 at the time referenced in that photograph?
I don't really recall where I was, ma'am, but
You don't recall where you were?
right.
Okay. But just a moment ago, you said you didn't dispute that that's your path of travel that agent displayed for the jury.
Correct, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm publishing to the jury. Photograph 1.1. Rather, 1.21. You saw Agent Sands testify, correct, concerning 1.8, correct?
I can't.
Business record attached there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's from your bank records, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
That was your vehicle, your card, and you that was present at the vicinity of 13689 East Oglethorpe Highway, Midway, on November. No swiped your card, right? That was you.
I so, ma'am. Yes, I do not have any reason to believe that was not me.
You didn't report your car stolen, right?
No, ma'am.
Didn't report your phone stolen?
No, ma'am.
Didn't report your wallet stolen?
No, ma'am.
So all along, you've always had possession of those, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It was your testimony that also you were told to turn your phone off, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, you saw Agent Bernie demonstrate the time gap of approximately 2 hours when your phone was off and still in the area of the Portal Hunting Club, correct?
I'm not sure where the phone was during that time, but because I believe it was turned off, but.
What was with you, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It was off, but on your person.
Or in my car.
Okay. And it's your testimony that you brought a black and a gray tote to that area, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so your testimony, that's not your tote?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
That is your tote.
No, ma'am, it is not. My testimony is that it is not my tote.
So the other one, the gray one, that's also not your tote?
I would call that the gray one, ma'am, but I believe that that is also not my tote.
Just so we're clear. My apologies. These two totes are not your totes?
That is correct.
There are two random black and gray totes that showed up on November 29th of 2022 in the vicinity of the Portal Hunting Club, and they're not yours?
Objection has been answered.
Overruled.
I'm not sure when they turned up, ma'am, but they are not mine. I can explain why if you would like.
You know how the process works, Mr. Kassotis.
Okay, ma'am.
You heard the testimony that Mindy's blood was inside of those totes, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you heard the testimony that there were cleansing wipes recovered in the vicinity, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And also, the knife.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's your testimony, this is not the knife you purchased on November 29th, 2022 at Home Depot.
That is definitively not the knife that I purchased at Home Depot.
Do you see the cleansing wipes on the knife at the photographs at the crime scene?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
It's your testimony you didn't clean this knife off, right?
That is correct, ma'am. I have never seen that knife before. It was introduced as evidence.
This knife just happened to be there in the vicinity of the same black and gray colored totes that you referenced in your interview to law enforcement, correct?
I don't believe it just happened to be there, ma'am, but it was there.
And it was your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, that you bought the deer processing kit to give to somebody as a gift?
Yes, to Mindy's younger brother, Matthew.
It was important to Mindy that you get him something he liked, right?
I believed so, but though I now have reason to question whether those messages were coming from Mindy or not.
But you don't have any reason to say otherwise other than that you're guessing, correct?
Correct.
But something so important to Mindy, you just left it at the house when you moved out, right?
I was extremely upset when I moved out, and I left a lot of things there.
So that was a yes, you left it at the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You never gave it to Matthew?
No, ma'am.
You heard testimony from Samantha, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was your third wife at the time, correct?
At the time, yes, ma'am.
You heard about the relationship leading up to you meeting her in person, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you started talking to her as early as late September 2022, correct?
I believe so, ma'am. I'm not 100% sure, but that sounds right.
Well, you saw the text messages, right?
I didn't actually look at them that closely, but if they say late September, that would be correct. It was either late September or early October. I'm not 100% sure.
Those messages were not sent by Signal, correct?
Correct.
They were sent on social media, correct?
Correct.
Those messages were sent by you, correct?
I believe so.
Well, here. Let me give you two specifically to look at. 1.95 and 1.98. Let us know when you've finished looking at them.
I'm done, ma'am.
Those are text messages or communications that you sent to Ms. Kolesnik, correct?
Yes.
And during those exchanges, there were several exchanges on a regular basis, correct?
Yeah.
And they started at the end of September of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately culminated with you going to see her on December 16th of 2022,
That sounds right, yes.
2 weeks after your wife was deceased.
Yes, ma'am.
But you initiated that relationship before she was dead.
I wouldn't say initiated that relationship, but we were talking, like I talked to many people online.
Well, you drove from Georgia to Missouri, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then from Missouri to Pennsylvania to go see her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How many hours was that?
Quite a few. I'm not sure exactly.
But you weren't just talking?
No, at that point we were, we had progressed into more of a relationship, but I'm saying that that wasn't how things had started in September.
Right, but on December 16th, 15 days after you told your wife's parents she was dead, you drove to Pennsylvania from Missouri, correct?
15 days after I learned my wife was dead.
October 22nd, 2022, you told Mid95 she had an undiagnosed heart issue that was aggravated by her pregnancy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Very sudden change in the way I thought life would look, but doing my best now to figure it out.
I forgot I muted it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I forgot I muted it. Hey, Jill. So is there an echo? Am I going to have to do the headphones thing? Maybe just turn it down some more. Which way? I don't know which way. Dang it. Y'all, I am sorry about the sound issues today.
You were tugging on her heartstrings, weren't you?
No, ma'am.
You weren't trying to convince her you were single and available?
No, ma'am, I was not. That was a very similar conversation to one I had with any number of people, male and female, friends.
Right, because you had a conversation going on with Joy when you thought Mindy was going to die in COVID, correct?
Correct.
So that was another woman you were chatting with that you told this jury was a woman you had a relationship with
Correct.
while you were still married.
While I was still married, ma'am.
But this one wasn't.
No, ma'am.
1.98, you indicated on November 8th of 2022, while terrified for your life and staying in the house exclusively but to run errands, going to spend this weekend in Virginia, then New York, Bedford, Hudson Valley area, then on to New England until after Thanksgiving. So hopefully going to spend a little time poking around and seeing how a few spots feel in terms of life there. That was not true.
That was not true, ma'am.
You weren't trying to convince her to trust you?
No, ma'am.
Why make that up?
That was something we were regularly told to do. Say that we would be in different places, and then if there was a concern, it would be somewhere that we weren't.
So Jim told you what to say in each of your text messages to Samantha?
Not in each, but it was something he would generally say, tell people that you're going to be traveling for the next 2 weeks. And then if there was a concern, it would be somewhere else.
After you found out that Mindi had passed, you testified to this jury you never got a single document of any sort from the doctors, correct?
That is correct.
You just told this jury that you were a JAG officer, correct? For 10 years.
I was.
You checked every detail, right?
Yes.
Verified everything, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't get a single document at any point in any of the time after her death?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Death certificates, 1.68. They're registered with the state of Georgia. You're aware of that, right?
I am.
You never got a single copy of a document from a courthouse?
No, ma'am. I asked about it once, and I should have followed up, but I did not.
You yourself as an attorney never got a single document.
No, ma'am. I didn't have any reason to have a document, and so I failed to follow up on it.
You were on trial for murder, correct?
Ma'am, I was not.
In anticipation of today, in your testimony, you knew you were on trial for murder, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't bring a single court document with you.
Well, ma'am, I believe the testimony is fairly clear that I was lied to about Mindy's death, and that I did not have a document because there were no documents.
You worked for Apis Security, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
No W-2, right?
At some point I saw a W-2, but
But you didn't bring one.
no, ma'am. I believe there was one in Discovery, but I don't recall.
You do. You believe there was one in Discovery?
I believe so, ma'am.
Can you tell us what document that was?
I can't recall. I believe it was a tax document.
Was there a W-4?
I don't recall. I'm not sure what a W-4 is, ma'am.
An I-9?
No, ma'am.
No tax documents?
No. I-9s are for immigrations, proving that you're a citizen, so.
What about tax records? You got paid, right?
It was paid into a trust, ma'am.
So you have zero records reflecting being paid by Apis Security, correct?
Well, I have the records that you provided to me during Discovery, but
1.84. You provided Samantha with an employment verification, correct?
yes, ma'am.
You indicated you worked for them February 12th, 2018 to present. That was January 12th of 2023, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You never got a single paycheck?
Not paid to me, no.
So for 5 years, you worked for a company and got zero money handed to you.
Handed to me, yes, ma'am.
That's not how that works.
You opened a bank account, correct?
I've opened, can you be more specific, ma'am?
You opened Renaissance Bank account, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That was the account we saw the records for, ending in 141, right?
I don't know the number, but I believe so.
You signed it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You went into the bank, right?
No, ma'am.
So that's not your physical signature on there.
It is my physical signature. I believe it was scanned and emailed.
It's your testimony you opened a bank account without going into the bank?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's not how that works either.
You provided Samantha with a driver's license, right?
With the photograph of one, yes.
1.86. This is the license you sent her, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing the jury 1.111, which is the same photograph, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're aware that there are no records in the state of Georgia reflecting a change of name to Stark.
I'm aware of that now, ma'am.
Well, you would have had to change your driver's license, right, sir?
Yes, I assume so.
Delaware. This was issued January 13th, 2023, 1.112. That's you, right?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Is that a current picture of you?
That was current at the time, ma'am.
publishing to the jury. And it's your testimony that you got one under the name Kassotis because of a glitch at the DMV?
It wasn't a glitch, ma'am.
Well, you testified that the Social Security Administration told you it would update in 24 hours your name change, right?
They said likely 24 hours, so there was a...
So still.
I hoped it would be sooner. That's why I went back to the DMV that afternoon.
Right, but in 1.106, you went on January 4th to change your name, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's your testimony that from January 4th of 2023, some 9 days later, it still hadn't updated?
No, ma'am. So there's a difference between the court document, which you go to court to get, and then the Social Security office, which you have to go in there and bring a copy of the court document to start that updating process.
Right, but you said you went the same day as you went to the Missouri.
No, ma'am. I said I went to the Social Security office in Delaware after I returned to the Delaware area from St. Louis.
You submitted driver's licenses for Delaware, Pennsylvania, and a name change in Missouri, all within a week approximately?
I was trying to update my driver's license. Yeah.
In 3 different states.
No, ma'am. I had gotten a name change in Missouri, which had been our plan from the beginning. I was splitting my time between Delaware and Pennsylvania at the time, and I had gotten one license in Delaware that was not the correct name. I was going to be spending the next part of the next week in Pennsylvania, so the next business day, it was a holiday weekend. It was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I went on that Tuesday into a DMV in Pennsylvania, and I got a license with what is now my legal name.
You remember it was a Tuesday, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't know your wife's doctor's name.
I was never given her doctor's name.
You didn't ask?
Ma'am, she wanted...
I asked you a question, sir.
No.
Did you ask?
I did not ask.
She was 8 months pregnant, you said, correct?
Correct.
You never visited her at the hospital.
Yeah, I was told not to.
And you listened?
Yes, ma'am.
First child, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Desperately wanted kids.
I wouldn't say desperately wanted kids, but I wanted kids.
You've been trying since Heather, right?
Yes. Well,
How many
on
years
and
was
off.
that?
You know, Mindy and I didn't start trying to have kids immediately, but...
Well, you testified there was a miscarriage in the middle, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That miscarriage was in, July of 2021.
So for years, you had been trying to get pregnant.
Yes, ma'am.
And your wife was finally 8 months pregnant and terribly ill, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I believe so.
And you never went to see her?
No, ma'am. I was talking to her and checking on her, but I did not physically go there because I did not think it was safe to.
Well, just in your testimony earlier, you said texting, not talking.
Yes, ma'am. I use them interchangeably. I'll be more clear.
You never spoke to her.
No, ma'am. I tried to multiple times, but we couldn't get a good enough signal to have a conversation.
And when you couldn't get her, you didn't go see her.
No, ma'am.
You're an attorney at the time of all of this, correct?
Interchangeably, like donate and pledge?
I don't believe I was at that time. No, ma'am.
I mean, you don't forget how to be a lawyer, do you?
No, ma'am. I hope not.
Right? So when you filled out this paperwork for the Missouri change of name, you indicated that you did not owe anybody any judgments,
That was my understanding. Yes, ma'am.
that there were no cases requesting money pending against you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yet you stood in a court of law in front of a judge who told you when to be back to settle what was owed to Miss Thomas, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't go.
I didn't go because I believed that was already settled.
You're an attorney at the time, right?
Yes, ma'am. At that time, I absolutely was.
You know if you don't show up to court, what happens?
They would, if I still had a hearing there, if I had not paid that money, I would have been held in contempt.
You told Heather to pay?
I did not, ma'am. And nor me, nor did she come to house that we had shared that continued living it 9 months afterwards.
You have been exchanging a series of emails back and forth with Heather for days leading up to that court hearing, correct?
I don't believe I had, no, ma'am.
It's your testimony you didn't.
I love her.
Miss Thomas was following you repeatedly to the point that you thought she was actually potentially one of the people causing you trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
She just evaporated?
Because I believed she had gotten the money that she wanted.
Then tell us why she would be a danger to you.
At that point, I no longer believed that she was a danger to me.
When was that?
That was shortly around the time that I believe the payment had been made to her, and she stopped contacting me altogether. Never came by the house, never called my phone.
But you just told this jury that Jim McIntyre was looking into it for you.
He was, and he said that he had determined that Heather was not involved and that he had wired the funds.
Let's talk about your marriage license. The application, 1.92.
Absolutely.
You listed people that are not your parents, correct?
At the time, I believed them to be my parents.
They're sitting in this courtroom now, right?
Yes, my parents are.
You don't disbelieve that Linda and Wayne Kassotis are your parents?
Not anymore, no ma'am.
And with all due respect to your father sitting here, that's the man you moved 100+ times because you were afraid of?
I wouldn't say 100+ times, but yes, ma'am. We moved probably 50 times because I was terrified.
Well, the 2 times that you just talked in direct testimony, you said 15 to 25 times twice, and then moved countless other times, correct?
I wouldn't say countless other times, ma'am.
Well, your recollection was every time you moved a week, right? You could tell this jury when you were in each different place, correct?
Yeah. I have because we move so often, it's actually pretty easy for me mentally to remember where we were when, because oftentimes we were only in a place for 2 days. So if you remember the 4th of July happened while you were in that house, you know when you were there.
But you don't remember your wife's doctor.
No, ma'am.
Let's just be clear, 2.32. This is Mindi, right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
During your interview with law enforcement, you didn't even ask what happened to her.
I did ask, ma'am. During the first interview, I asked what happened to Mindi, and Mr. Sands told me that at this time he did not believe that I presume you, the district attorney, wanted to make that information public.
You didn't ask about your baby either, did you?
No, ma'am.
Not once in 2 hours and 10 minutes, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And not once in almost 2 hours in Liberty County, correct?
Well, ma'am, in Liberty County, as you all saw, was the time I was told that Mindi had not been pregnant when she died.
Until they told you, you didn't ask about the baby either, right?
No, ma'am.
You told your in-laws that your wife died December 1st of 2022, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Immediately after I was told, I went back to the house and told them.
And then the next day you went and got your car washed? Or was that the same day? I'm showing 1.110.
I don't recall what day that was, ma'am.
Well, that is your car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So after you found out your wife was dead, you went to the car wash. Is that right?
Apparently, ma'am.
Well, that is your bank record, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, at some point I went and got my car washed. I don't recall getting my car washed, but I may have. It appears I did. Yes, ma'am. I was drinking probably a scary amount at this point.
During your direct examination, I didn't hear any reference to 2.44 or 2.43, the rug, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
You don't dispute that this rug is the one you got the house at, 2.44?
No, ma'am. That looks right.
And 2.43 is what was there when you got there?
I believe so, ma'am.
And you replaced these because you said Rusty threw up on it?
Yes, he always had kind of a stomach that was sensitive to eating too much, and he was known to beg for food. So sometimes Betsy and Frank would overeat him, and he would get sick.
You didn't just clean the rug?
No, ma'am. Mindy had put it in a plastic bag and stuck it out back because it smelled, and by the time I had time to try to clean it, 2 days had passed, and the entire thing smelled absolutely awful.
Had nothing to do with the blood that was underneath the rug, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it your testimony that law enforcement somehow put Blue Star on the floor of that house?
Ma'am, I have no idea what blood that is or when it was there, and unfortunately, law enforcement never tested that.
Right. And so the blood on the futon that was Mindy's?
I have no idea how that blood got there, ma'am.
Okay.
I didn't spend a lot of time in that room, so
You lived in the house, right?
yes, ma'am.
It was also your testimony that initially Jim was an FBI agent, right?
I believed he was for, gosh, 2 years, over 2 years?
And at some point you determined that he was not, correct?
Yes.
You didn't move after you figured that out, right?
No, as I testified, we had a big argument about whether or not, stop it altogether.
You also didn't move after your father and uncle showed up at your house, right?
That is correct.
You were moving hundreds, or at least, my apologies, at least 50 times, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, at least 50 times, definitely.
Over 7 years, correct?
Yeah.
How long was it?
I have 5 years? Yeah.
5 years. So over 5 years, you kept moving because that man was your threat.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he showed up at your door with your uncle, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't move.
No, ma'am. I asked to.
So at this point, you actually knew he knew where you were.
Yes, ma'am.
You ran out the back.
After I talked to Jim, yes, I departed via the back of the house.
You said you called Jim, didn't you?
Yes, on Signal, but you can make voice calls or I believe even video calls now through Signal.
But yet when law enforcement spoke to you the first time in Pennsylvania, you said he just showed up. Right?
No, ma'am.
Law enforcement specifically asked you, how did Jim know where to find you? And you said he just showed up.
No, ma'am. I said it didn't take him long to get there, which I thought clearly indicated that I had contacted him, but apparently there was some confusion on Mr. Sand's part. He then later said that I was clearly asked that twice, and I've listened to that interview about 40 times, and I've never heard it asked even once, clearly.
You've had access to all this material, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew what the state's case was, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No documents here with you today.
No, ma'am.
You indicated at some point that it was very important for you to figure out who of Mindy's friends would need to know, correct?
Absolutely, ma'am.
And you reached out to each of them, correct?
I did.
It's your testimony you had no idea that Mr. Frank and Mrs. Betsy thought you were dead?
No, ma'am, I did not.
So I'm showing you 1.87 and 1.88. We'll take a look at them. You've seen them before, right?
Yes, ma'am, I saw them when they were provided in Discovery.
Did you see the email address on that?
I do, ma'am. Yes.
That's 8bis Limited, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be the same address that you claimed was Jim McIntyre, correct?
I believe he had an APIS, but I'm not sure that I did not regularly email with him personally, so I believe at some point I saw an APIS limited address for him as he was reaching out to Frank and Betsy, but.
Well, you just told the jury you worked for 8bis Limited, right?
Yes, ma'am. I believe so.
You got that employment verification from Marcus Jones at 8bis Limited, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed you were working for Jim McIntyre, right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
That he was preserving all of your funds in a trust, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you bring the trust documents here?
No, ma'am.
In order to start a trust Mr. Kassotis, as an attorney, you know that there are actual documents you need to sign, right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
You never preserved any of those?
At some point, I lost them. I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
But I had them, and I provided them to Miss Thomas on at least one occasion.
Actually, when you went to court, you didn't provide the
I have ADHD and I lose my phone 5 times a day. But I know exactly where my birth certificate and my marriage license is, and I can go find it in 3 minutes. Not even 3 minutes. I know where every important document I need is. He is so stupid. Nobody believes your lies, dude. Nobody.
court with anything, did you?
I don't believe I was asked to.
That would be a no?
Yes, ma'am, that would be a no.
But you told the court you had $32 million.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Did you ever ask Jim to show you a copy of the check that he sent to Heather or the wire to pay her off?
Absolutely. I saw bank records showing a wire transaction to her.
And you saved all those?
No, ma'am. I believe I've been pretty clear about that.
Well, Heather was all but, from your description, stalking you for the money, right?
She was energetically looking for it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So energetically looking for it, you didn't think it was important to hold on to a copy of those?
No, ma'am. As I said, I stayed in that house for another 9 months. The house that Heather and I had shared when we were married, and never heard from her. She never stopped by. She never called my phone. I assumed that that was over and done with.
At that point, you had moved and changed your name and your driver's licenses in 2 additional states, correct?
No, ma'am. This is years before that.
Okay. Now, initially, I believe you told us that you contacted the FBI, and that's when Jim showed up, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if I recall correctly, what you said was you were very happy because normally you don't get any traction on a case like this.
Yes, ma'am. That was my fear.
But then Jim McIntyre, according to your testimony, spent the next 2 years acting as your basically personal assistant, social media provider, financial advisor, and Microsoft purveyor, correct?
I'm not sure I would use all of those, but he was somebody that we were dealing with very closely throughout all of this.
You thought that an FBI agent just decided to take you on with a case you didn't think that he was actually even going to investigate?
I had been worried that he wouldn't investigate it. I was very happy that it was being taken so seriously.
And it's your testimony to this jury that after 10 years in the JAG, you believed he was an FBI agent.
Absolutely. And I've dealt with law enforcement, both the state, the local, and federal law enforcement extensively. There was nothing that concerned me at that time.
So let me make sure I get this straight. Initially, you thought that the risk, based on your testimony, was because of the Washington Post article.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Then you thought it was Wayne, correct?
No, ma'am. Then we started looking at others. We looked at an ex-boyfriend of Mindy's, Heather, my ex-wife. Then we looked at a former boss of Angela's who had tried to assault Mindy. He was a very kind of rich and powerful man. Then...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And it wasn't until after we had exhausted those leads that he started looking at our immediate families.
So when Jim McIntyre, you determined, did not work for the FBI, he promptly told you how he knew
to come and see you and Mindi, right?
No, ma'am. And that is one of the things I've thought as to how he entered our life. I never followed up in 7 years of my life that I spent a lot of time thinking about.
He just showed up at your house and said he was the FBI.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering about that. How did he find out about anything? Did he hack into the...
You heard testimony about Cameron Nelson's credit card, the Capital One card, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It's your testimony.
Majority of them, not all of them.
The Uber Eats purchases that came to the house in Savannah, those are done by Jim McIntyre?
We were never in Savannah while we were using, well, anything was being charged to Cameron's card.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And all of those transactions, the Uber car rentals, were those Jim McIntyre too?
The Uber car rentals?
Yeah, Uber.
I don't know anything about those, ma'am.
You never took an Uber on a credit card?
I have taken Ubers before. I have never, during this time, I never took an Uber, no.
So if the bank records show you taking Ubers and going places, that wasn't you?
That was not me, correct.
Okay. You have an Uber app on your phone, correct?
I do now, yes.
So it's your testimony you never had an Uber app on your phone in 2022?
In 2022, I did. I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about Miss Nelson's credit card. Are
I
you
asked-
talking about my bank records or Miss Nelson's? I'm just not clear.
I'm talking about your bank records.
Oh, okay, yes. My bank records, yes. There were times I took an Uber.
But you told this jury you were afraid to leave the house, right?
Yes, ma'am. Every time I went out, it was scary.
But you fought through the fear and jumped in an Uber?
If I had things that needed to be done, then yes. I thought it was my job to take care of those things.
You didn't call Jim and say, hey, Jim, I need a ride. Get me to this location. You're my security detail?
No, ma'am. Sometimes he would drive me places, but for regular errands, no. That was something that I dealt with. Either I had Mr. Frank Mebane drive me, or I would call an Uber.
Right, because on November 29th, you clearly went to Home Depot by yourself, right?
Yes, ma'am. At that point, I had a car, so I was not taking Ubers anywhere.
And it's your testimony to this jury that you never paid Jim McIntyre 1 penny. For how many years of service to you?
I believed that we were both benefiting from this.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if you paid him.
No, I did not.
So in all of the years that he worked with you, you never paid him.
No, ma'am.
And it was your testimony you met Frank first, or rather, you met Jim first in Virginia, correct?
Yes, Alexandria, Virginia.
And then he followed you to what state next?
We saw him multiple times in Virginia, then later we saw him in South Carolina and in Georgia.
And then you said you didn't see him much.
Yeah, I believe I only saw him once, maybe twice when I was in Delaware.
Okay. It was your testimony to law enforcement, or your statement, I should say, to be clear, that Jim McIntyre handled your finances the entire time.
Yes, ma'am.
That included setting up all of your Airbnbs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Except the one in Savannah, because you bought that one, right?
Yes, ma'am. And there were two at the very beginning, one in Alexandria and one in Charlottesville that I set up personally.
Well, and don't forget the one in Hilton Head that you got for Frank and Betsy afterwards in your name too, right?
Yeah, that wasn't an Airbnb, but correct. I did set up that rental.
In the name Kassotis, right?
Yes, ma'am.
While you were still afraid that people were coming after you. And your wife now was already dead.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're still using your name Kassotis.
That was my legal name at the time. Yes, ma'am.
And you said when you got the $300,000 from Sony, you didn't pay Cameron, right?
Correct, ma'am.
You didn't pay Heather, right? You thought that was paid,
I thought that was paid, ma'am.
right? At that point, that money was the money you and Mindy were living on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Jim McIntyre didn't control that money, correct?
No. He did not control that money.
So you did have $300,000 to your disposal, at least on June of 2022.
Absolutely. That was a non-negotiable point for us, was that we get to control our own money.
Now, you talked about mosquitoes, right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
When you had problems with mosquitoes, that was when you first moved in, right?
It had started when we first moved in, but it got worse in, I want to say, mid-August.
Can you tell the jury how expensive the Airbnb was? How much did that cost?
I think it cost about $4,500 a month, but I could be mistaken.
Dang.
You called the owner, right, to get her to fix the mosquito problem.
No, ma'am.
You decided to fix that yourself?
Yes, ma'am. This was a rule that we had for several years.
A rule?
At $4,500 a month, you took on handyman jobs.
Absolutely, ma'am.
It was also your testimony that Mr. Frank and Mrs. Betsy left the residence the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they returned on that Sunday?
Yes, ma'am. That is the best of my recollection, but I'm pretty certain about it.
Well, you testified under oath to that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you weren't sure, you would have told us that,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
There's also your testimony that your wife went into the hospital on Saturday, that weekend, correct?
I believe it was Saturday. There's a slight chance it could have been Friday, but I've thought about this a lot. I'm relatively certain it was Saturday.
Well, you just, again, testified under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
It was Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
You give us an equivocation earlier,
Yes,
did you?
ma'am. No, ma'am, I did not.
And you said it was Saturday, correct? And you said that her parents came back on Sunday,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
You never told them what hospital, right?
No, ma'am. I don't believe they asked either.
And then it was your testimony that you talked to Mindy Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, correct?
I believed I talked to Mindy.
Okay. So that was a yes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm uncertain. I think I've been pretty clear that I don't know if it was Mindy or not. It was a message from, Mindy's Signal account.
But you could have called her on the Signal account, right?
As I said, I tried to call her, but she didn't have a good enough signal where she was, so we couldn't hear each other.
But you never talked to her after she went in, so how would you know that?
As I said, I tried to call her, and when we could not verbally talk, we messaged each other via Signal.
And then you went to pick her up on December 1st, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Hospitals have phones, you know.
You heard testimony from Dr. Mondor that on December 1st, she was already dead, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You could have called the place.
You have no reason to disbelieve Dr. Mondor's estimation, do you?
I do not, ma'am, no. Which is why I have said I do not think I was talking to Mindy for most of that week.
And when you went to the birthing center and they told you that Mindy had passed, you didn't see Mindy, correct?
Correct, ma'am. I asked to, and I was told I was not able to at that time.
You never once referenced the baby during your direct examination when you talked to the doctor.
Well, ma'am, at this point, I learned roughly a little over 2 years ago that there was no baby.
We didn't mention it to law enforcement either when they first approached you.
No, ma'am. I guess I did not. I believe we talked about the pregnancy quite a bit, but not specifically the baby.
Not on the first interview, Mr. Kassotis. You didn't.
Yeah, I'm relatively certain we talked quite a bit about how Mindy was pregnant and where I thought she was. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, When you went to pick up your wife's ashes, you indicated that was in Alabama,
Yes, ma'am. Montgomery, Alabama.
and you gave him $5,000 cash.
Yes, ma'am.
No paperwork,
No, ma'am.
no name.
I'm sorry, no
He
name?
didn't
ma'am?
give you his name?
He might have, ma'am. I'm unsure. I don't remember. It was a very brief meeting.
You received your wife's ashes on the side of the road, and you didn't get the man's name?
No, ma'am. I was pretty angry at him.
You're an attorney at the time, right?
No, ma'am.
You were at that time?
No, ma'am. Not licensed at the time.
Well, you had put your license on hold, essentially, right?
Yeah, I had given up my Virginia license, but Massachusetts allows you to retire your license, and then if you want to turn it back on later, you just have to pay as if you were an active lawyer for all the years in between. So I am still, to this day, a retired attorney in Massachusetts.
You didn't forget how to be a lawyer, is my point.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And receiving your wife's ashes on the side of the road in Alabama for $5,000 cash, you didn't think you needed any documents. That was a no, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
And I just want to make sure I understand, your car burst into flames in the condition we saw it in this courtroom on your way to purchase a house,
Yes, ma'am.
and you never bought the house.
No, ma'am.
That's a real estate transaction, correct?
That is a real estate transaction. Yes, ma'am.
Those require written documents, correct?
Absolutely, ma'am.
You lost $50,000, you said, right?
I did, ma'am.
You have no records of that?
Ma'am, you have all my banking records. You can see the EMD coming right out of it.
Right. And your testimony is you don't have a record reflecting anything concerning that transaction that day?
Ma'am, you have all of my electronics, and that's how all these documents were. They were e-signed.
Well, actually, withdrawn. You never bought the house, right?
Correct, ma'am.
Because you had a check for $860,000, I believe you said, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
She needs to not let him do that. She was doing good when he would challenge her. She would say, "That's not what I asked you. I asked you whatever." And now he's saying, when she asks a question, he's saying, "You have all my bank records. You can see it." She needs to not let him do that. She needs to stop letting him do that.
You said burnt up, right?
Along with parts of me, ma'am.
And when Investigator
Along with
Frost
parts
said
of
to you,
me.
what was something that was in the car that you opened the door? Do you recall that?
It was my phone, ma'am.
Not check for $860,000.
No, ma'am. In that moment, all I was trying to do was call for help.
You didn't care about a check for $860,000?
I absolutely cared about a check for $860,000. At that moment, for help. Not realizing that my car was to burst into flames.
Detective Frost had to tell you about the check, didn't he?
No, ma'am. I remember. I thought
He had just gone to the bank to get a cashier's check to pay for the down payment on the check on the house that they were closing on that day. So he's driving back from the bank when the car caught on fire, supposedly. Supposedly. I don't know if there ever was a check for $850,000.
about something else.
I just want to make sure I confirm something. The police report against your father for the name change in Missouri,
Yes, ma'am.
that was September 30th of 2022, the incident, correct?
I believe so, ma'am, yes.
When you were a victim of domestic violence, alleged, that alleged, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had not had a police report reflecting the need to seal it being domestic violence, you couldn't have gotten it sealed, right?
Well, ma'am, I thought there were many other reports at this time, but yes, I did rely on that one when I got it sealed. Yes, ma'am.
This is true.
You submitted it, right?
Absolutely. Along with my medical records, I believe, from the assault in Virginia.
Now, Mr. Kassotis, when you received Mindy's remains, you had testified that it was so important to you and Mrs. Mevin to figure out who would want to be notified, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You promptly called them to schedule them to be present when you distributed her ashes, right?
No, ma'am.
Hang on just one moment. Mr. Kassotis, in anticipation of today's date, you located Mr. McIntyre, right?
No, ma'am.
So you've been talking to him basically on and off since what, 2017?
I started talking to him in fall of 2017, I believe, and we last spoke in, I want to say, mid-April of 2023.
And the records for Apis Limited, you subpoenaed those records in anticipation of court, correct?
No, ma'am.
You know what a subpoena is as an attorney, right, sir?
I do, ma'am.
And you knew that Mr. McIntyre was a majority investor, I think is the phrasing that you used, right?
That was what I believed, ma'am.
You hired a private investigator to find him?
No, ma'am. I hope the state would do that, but y'all didn't really care that much.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike. It's argumentative.
Let me see y'all at the bench.
Why? They did look for him and they couldn't find him. They did care. I am so worried that one person on this jury is gonna believe his BS. That's all it takes is one person. I guess they're not striking that. Why would he not strike that?
One moment. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
I'm just
Ladies and
saying.
gentlemen, we're going to take a short break. This one's going to be very quick. So if you'll go out with the bailiff, we'll have you in back in just a few minutes.
We weren't that far. We weren't that far behind. That was a very short break. I don't know, Ken. I'm just saying.
All right,
if
everyone, please be
if
seated.
one woman don't,
Mr. Weinstein, any redirect?
I
Thank you.
don't.
This-
Mr. Kassotis, I think you started to try to explain earlier why you believe these black and gray totes are not your totes. Why do you believe these are not your totes?
We had our totes for years. We moved with them over 50 times probably. They were outside in the back of a truck, sometimes getting rained on. The stickers look pretty new on the sides. I understand it's kind of hard to tell because these have been, I think, dusted for and had something applied to them. But these stickers look pretty new, and we didn't even have stickers left on ours anymore.
You stated that the Milwaukee knife that was shown by the prosecutor is definitely not the knife that you bought. How are you so definitive about that?
Because I saw that knife in Pennsylvania, the Milwaukee knife that I purchased.
When you began to communicate with Samantha, you did not use Signal, correct?
Correct, sir.
Why didn't you use Signal to communicate with Samantha when you used Signal to communicate with everybody else?
I use Signal to communicate with people in my life who really knew me and who I was, frankly, knew what was going on, knew more where I was, what I was dealing with. People I was making what I viewed as small talk with, I did not use Signal.
How did you communicate with Samantha?
We initially spoke via Twitter direct message, and then later spoke via WhatsApp.
Did you Twitter direct message with anyone else other than Sam?
Absolutely.
And I believe you said WhatsApp. Did you use WhatsApp with anyone other than Samantha?
Yes, though not as many people. WhatsApp is another encrypted messaging app. I believe it's owned by Facebook. So most people I spoke with off of there, or I spoke to on WhatsApp, would also have been people I spoke to on Signal. So, but there were, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people somewhere in there that I spoke to on WhatsApp.
The prosecutor brought up that you did not receive any paychecks from APIS Security, correct?
Yes, sir.
How did you get paid from APIS Security?
My understanding was that the payments were going into a trust until such time that it was safe for us to receive the money.
Renaissance Bank, you say you did not go into the bank to open that account.
That is correct.
How did you open that account without going into the bank?
I was given the name of I believe his name is David Anderson. He's a manager at the Dunwoody. I don't know where Dunwoody is. I think it's up by Atlanta. The Dunwoody branch of the Renaissance Bank. He dealt with a friend of mine, and she said that he would be somebody to help. I needed a bank account, and he was nice enough to do it. I had to send him my identification, the signature form, but he set it up over the phone. Later, I went into Renaissance Bank multiple times, but in different branches. But I've actually never met Mr. Anderson because I never made it to Atlanta.
When did your name change become official in Missouri?
January 4th, 2023.
Where did you go into Social Security in order to have Social Security change your name?
Wilmington, Delaware.
And when did you do that in Delaware?
About a week later, we were just talking about the dates. It was the date I got my Delaware driver's license, but I forget. It was roughly a week later.
So just to clarify, the same day or a different day in Delaware? You went to Social Security?
I went to Social Security and DMV on the same day in Delaware. It was the end of a week. I believe it was a Friday.
Why didn't you go see your wife when she was in the hospital and she was 8 months pregnant?
I was talking to her. I didn't think there was any reason that I would not be seeing her shortly, and I thought that it was safer not to.
I'm trying to understand what you mean when you say you were talking to her.
I was messaging with her on Signal. Again, at this point, it seems like I was not talking to her, but at the time, I assumed I was. Everything seemed fine.
Okay. Your court date with Heather in Virginia was in January of 2019, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How much longer did you remain in the marital house that you had previously had with Heather after that January 2019 court date?
Until late October 2019. I don't recall the exact date, but I remember that it was during the World Series because it was a big deal in the area. The Nationals were in it.
As far as you are aware, did Heather know that you were still in that house?
As far as I'm aware, yes, you did.
And did you ever see her come by that house after January of 2019?
Never once, and we had a camera looking at the driveway in the front of the house.
We heard that you did not move when your father, Wayne, showed up at your house in Savannah, correct?
That is correct.
Why didn't you move?
We spoke to Mr. McIntyre about it. I wanted to leave, roughly 5 minutes after I saw him. He said that we had to calm down and think about things. He said that whatever the leak was, it was related to one of the delivery services, because he had come to the address in Savannah, which was not an address we received mail at. We would sometimes get packages from Amazon, but never mail. Our mail went either to Atlanta or to Florida. So he said since he came there, it was a delivery address for an online service, either a DoorDash or an Uber Eats, something like that, maybe Instacart. He said that we would change our rules on how we lived physically, and that I was going to have to go out more afterwards, which didn't for us.
What?
Did you make
That
any
doesn't make
changes
sense.
around that house after your father showed up?
Absolutely.
What changes did you make?
For roughly 2 months, we were not allowed to park in the driveway. We were forced, both me and Mindi and Frank and Betsy were forced to park our cars down the road. When I went in and out, I had to go out through the back, walk all the way around the block to my car, so it wouldn't appear that I was coming from the house. We kept all the shades facing the house or the street drawn at all times. We were not allowed to turn on extra lights other than the lights that were on that morning. There was one on in the kitchen. So anything facing the front of the house, we had nothing else. We were all living in very dim, through some very dim nights. Mr. Frank III was told that he had to leave that his car had to leave the house between, I believe, about 1 and 3 every day. That they did not want the car in the area, which meant that he was not around during those times. He could have, I guess, driven somewhere and then walked back, but he was in a lot of pain from his hip at the time. And the bathroom on the far side of the house, where we had the laundry, it was the little addition that kind of jutted out. We were not allowed to use the washer or the dryer after 8 o'clock at night. And if he went in there at night, he had to use his phone. He was not allowed to turn on the lights.
Who is he?
I'm sorry, he is Frank III, Mr. Medbin. That was the bathroom he tended to use most. Because of his hip, it had a little bit more room for him.
You testified that you have a college degree.
Yes, sir.
You have 3 years of law school for a JD.
Yes, sir.
You have 2 years of an LLM degree, a master's in law.
Yes, sir.
Why were you so convinced that Jim McIntyre was FBI?
I've asked myself that a million times, sir, and I believed him. I saw no reason to believe him. It never occurred to me that after Mindi and I put online reports to the FBI that anyone else would show up at our house other than somebody trying to help. If anybody showed up. I mean, my real concern was nobody was going to come, and we were going to be dealing with this on our own. But
We heard that you never paid Jim McIntyre.
that is correct. Yep.
Why not?
Well, for the first 2 years, I believed it was his job to protect us. And after that, when we talked about our relationship, I believed that there was a dual incentive there, that he was, he gained in having me working for him, and things were going well on that front. And I gained in him helping us out. I thought it was mutually beneficial.
And I'm sorry to jump around.
That's okay.
Why did you perform your own maintenance in these Airbnbs that you were paying so much money for?
Yeah, when we arrived in Hilton Head it was right before Christmas of 2019. The next day, we arrived, the internet didn't work, and we let the rental company know. via Mr. McIntyre. He got back to us and said, okay, somebody's going to come out today. And while I was in the process of walking this gentleman through the house, I fell down a, basically 20-foot flight of stairs. I was wearing socks. It was polished wood. Not my brightest moment. But Mindy was terrified that this gentleman who had come into our house had pushed me down the flight of stairs. And after that, we were told, you do your own maintenance. You don't call anybody. We don't want to risk something like that happening. So throughout our time in Hilton Head, when we had issues, when even long afterwards, when I was in Pennsylvania and a house would have some sort of maintenance issue, it was just something that I got into the habit.
What in the... I want to do an F-bomb here, but y'all know I don't cuss. Mindi was afraid that the man pushed him down the stairs. Couldn't he have told her, no, I had socks on and slipped on the wood floor? Was she thinking that he lied to her about the man pushing him down the stairs? What in the flying fig is that? Oh my God. He can't even lie constructively. Man, you sold a fiction story to Sony and you can't come up with a better lie than that? Good Lord.
But of taking care of myself. The only exception was things that had to happen outside of the house. So there was once or twice that an HVAC froze up on us in the summer. And since that didn't involve anybody coming into the house, he said in those cases it was okay to have somebody outside doing that work.
What did you do with Mindy's ashes after you got them in Alabama?
Initially, nothing. I held on to them, and then following the time where I stopped hearing from Frank and Betsy, and I was very concerned about that, I realized I wasn't really sure when there was going to be some sort of a remembrance ceremony, and if that happened down the road, the scattering of the ashes wasn't something that I felt had to happen there, and I didn't want her to, be driving around in my car, basically. So I took them to Havre de Grace, Maryland. It is the mouth. It's considered not the mouth. It's considered the head of the Chesapeake Bay.
Were the baby's ashes mixed in with hers? Where are the baby's ashes?
The Chesapeake Bay was a place that Mindy loved, that she talked about all the time. And I scattered her ashes there, and I took her engagement ring and her wedding band and my wedding band and kind of tied them together with a twist, and I put them in the water as well.
Were those in fact her ashes?
They were not, sir.
How do you know they were not?
I've been told that her remains were found elsewhere. I had that realization during my first interview with Mr. Sands.
You're a fiction writer.
Yes, sir.
You make up stories.
When I write, yes, sir.
How do we know this story that you're telling today is not fiction? That you have not made this up?
Yes, sir. Absolutely everything we did for 5 years makes absolutely no sense absent somebody telling us to do it. From the very large...
Well, he does say Norfolk right. He doesn't say Norfolk. He says Norfolk. So he says Norfolk right.
Settlement I was willing to voluntarily give Heather, which would make no sense if I didn't believe I had $32 million coming in, to staying in the house at a time where the state says that I knew that I was on the run. Like I had absolutely no idea. I lived in that house for another 9 months. I never saw any sign that that there was any issue with Heather. To putting a $50,000 EMD on a house that I believed that there was money coming to buy. I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever been to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but you could probably rent a very nice house there for 2-3 years with $50,000.
As you sit here today, do you think that there was a person named Jim McIntyre?
I do not believe that was his name, no.
How does that make you feel?
Angry, betrayed, frankly dumb.
Do you know who killed your wife, Mindi Kassotis?
I do not.
I have no further questions.
Recross.
Does he think
I just have one
someone
question.
kidnapped
You
her from
indicated that at some
hospital?
point you put a camera in after the incident with your father, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In Savannah, let me be
Yes,
clear.
yes, ma'am.
And that camera was pointed towards the road, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that camera did not record?
I'm not sure, but I don't remember it recording.
Well, you told law enforcement in the interview it didn't record.
Yeah, that is my understanding. Or that
Nothing
was my
else.
understanding at the time. It's been several years since I saw that camera last, so.
But you saw the interview.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, I believe my memory was fresher then, and so,
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Sir, you can step down.
thank you, sir.
Are my ears bleeding? I feel like my ears are bleeding.
All right, Mr. Weinstein, any further evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Defense rests?
Defense rests.
Anything in
way.
rebuttal from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so the evidence closes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to step out for just a minute. There's some things that I need to discuss with counsel before we go further.
Where's Jim McIntyre? Isn't he gonna testify?
All right, the jury's out. We'll be in recess. I do need to see the attorneys at the bench. I don't need to see the defendant. It's only
Well, he didn't excuse the jury for the day, so we're not done. No, they already did that, Ken. Wait. he didn't excuse the jury for the day. He sent them back to the jury room. Are we going to do charging conference, or is that going to be tomorrow? Are we going to have closing statements tomorrow? What? He didn't finish the day. I don't know what to do now. Oh, that was good. Just because it's on fire today. Yes. You guys rotate. I love it. No, we're not getting closings today, but we should get charging conference unless they're going to do charging conference tomorrow. If they do charging conference tomorrow, then that means closings won't be until Friday, which means we'll have to wait all weekend for a verdict. Which is why they should do... Wait. Yeah. Yeah. They should do charging conference now and closings tomorrow, and then we can have a verdict on Friday. And then be done. So we don't have to wait over the weekend. Look at this face. Why? 3 women. I don't think he duped Heather. I don't know what happened to him. I think when he met Heather, he was normal. I don't know what happened after that. He is neither good looking or charming. I just don't understand. Which is why I made that comment about just one person on the jury. And I think it was just because it said his whole demeanor changed when he got on the stand. If one woman on that jury happens to find him charming, I don't. I'm not saying this is going to happen. But if one woman happens to think that he's telling the truth, just one woman hangs this jury. I mean, it could happen. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying I want it to, because I think he's delusional and guilty as all get out. Like, what happened? Or me. This is true. I'm sorry. I'm being politically incorrect, I guess, is what I'm being. I'm sorry. Or man. But
would be appropriate, but in addition, there are special circumstances for venue that have been addressed in this, where there is murder committed, and I believe under criminal homicide, it's under 1.5, 1.20.
And I'll read you the venue charge that I'm going to give the jury. The law provides that criminal actions shall be indicted and tried in the county in which the crime was committed, in a prosecution in any case in which it cannot be determined in what county the crime was committed. Venue is proper and may be proven in any county in which evidence shows beyond a reasonable doubt that it might have been committed. Then I'll go further in saying criminal homicide shall be considered as having been committed in the county in which the cause of death was inflicted. That cannot be determined in which county the cause of death was inflicted. Venue is proper and may be proved in the county in which the death occurred. If a dead body is discovered in this state and it cannot be readily determined in what county the cause of death was inflicted, venue is proper and may be proved in the county in which the dead body was discovered. And then venue would have to be proven by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the charge I expect to give. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
So I'm not going to give the special circumstances 21. It talks about boundary lines and counties and things of that nature.
So is he going to let the jury go home? Because he didn't tell him to go home. He just told him to go back to the jury room.
The general verdict charge, number 22, I'll give. Number 23, the court having no interest in the case, I will give. The sympathy charge, number 24, I will give. Responsibility for sentencing, number 25, I'll give. Deliberations, number 26, I will give. Now, the statutory definitions of each crime that's charged in the indictment, I will give. So states 27 with regard to malice murder. 28 is the premeditation does not have to be proven. I intend to give that. Any objection?
Absolutely none.
Okay. The motive The motive charge, 29, I will give. The felony murder charge, the elements of felony murder in state's request number 30, I will give. Causation in felony murder, I will give. All right. With regard to 32, aggravated assault, the state gave the deadly weapon section when I think the indictment alleges offensive weapon.
2.20.21, I believe, is with a deadly or offensive weapon, Judge. And if we didn't clarify it there, then I'm
But
sorry.
then you went on to define it as being with a deadly weapon. There's no
my
mention, no
apologies
mention
then.
of offensive weapon.
But
So
my
I think I
apologies.
have to give the offensive weapon charge.
I agree with the court on that. My apologies, Your Honor.
So we've restated it with that small change. Possession of a knife during the commission of a felony, number 33, I'll give that. Number 34, concealing the death of another, I will give. Possession of tools for the commission of a crime, number 35, I'll give. Number 36, removal of body parts from scene of death or dismemberment, I will give. Number 37, the statutory definition of tampering with evidence, I will give with the exception of C.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was gonna object.
We're not going to give subsection C, that are the exceptions for law enforcement. All right, number 38. Okay, we have put those in, that the state doesn't have to produce the weapon, et cetera. I intend to give that. Number 39, polygraph is out.
I would withdraw that, Your Honor.
39 is out. Number 40 is out regarding raising certain defenses. Okay, 41 is not a part of the standard charge. It involves the court discussing false statements in consciousness of guilt. You cited federal cases. I cannot find any Georgia cases that would approve of that charge, and I'm concerned that that particular charge would place undue emphasis on the state's theory of the case, so I don't intend to give that charge. But I'll be happy to hear if the state has any authority with regard, other than the federal authority that you've already cited. Okay.
State v. Woodson.
Okay. 42, the exact date of the murder is not material. I intend to give that. And 43, I mean, I've already told the jury that they could consider the WebEx testimony just like any other testimony. I see any need to tell them that again, but I'll be glad to hear what you attorneys have to say.
That it was the only witness, Your Honor, in that circumstance.
I think I've already that with the jury. What do you say, Mr. Lawrence?
I don't think that we need 43, so I would object to a felony.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to give that. All right, those are all of the state's charges. Hey, Mr. Weinstein, I'll give you another opportunity. Any objections to those that we've covered so far?
No objections to those that you've already used.
All right, the defendant's request to charge. And most of these are going to be repetitive, but I'll go through them. Number 1, I will give. Number 2, I will give. Number 3, I will give. And every defense wants grave suspicion, and I'll give it.
Thank you.
Number 5. I will give. Number 6 regarding evidence generally, I'll give. 7, I'll give the charge on direct and circumstantial evidence. Number 8 is the standard credibility charge, which I'll give. on expert witnesses. I've got some problems with number 10. Character for untruthfulness is not
And
part.
that's also not present.
I'm just going to give the general impeachment charge.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Right. So that means 11 I will use the standard charge. And 12 does mention impeachment, and I will give the standard impeachment charge. 13 regarding prior statements, I'll give that charge. 14 is out of the standard charge, I'll give that.
Your Honor, 14 is single witness corroboration.
That's in our standard
What,
charge.
what single witness is counsel referring to?
My client is a single witness.
It's given in almost every case. I can't think of a case where I haven't given it.
I don't particularly care, I just was trying to understand the theory behind it, that's all.
Okay. 15 doesn't apply because the defendant did testify, so I won't give 15. That long convoluted charge on statements made by the defendant, I'll give that. And that would encompass 16, 17, 18, 19. Brings us to 20, which is the DNA charge. We do have a DNA charge in there. So I intend to give a DNA charge. Number 21, good character is not a part of this case, so I'm not going to give that. 22, definition of crime, obviously I'll give. 23, regarding intent, I will give. 24, no presumption of criminal intent, I'll give. Number 25, presumptions and inferences, that's a part of the standard charge, I'll give it. The mere presence I'll give, but that will be in connection with the grave suspicion charge. 27, the malice murder definition, I will give. 28, with regard to premeditation, I'll give. 29, motive, I'll give. 30, felony murder, I'll give. 31, causation in felony murder, I'll give. All right, number 32, there's a request for a lesser included on voluntary manslaughter, which I do not intend to, I don't believe there's any evidence of any provocation or anything close to voluntary manslaughter, but I'll hear from counsel.
Now, that was put in out of caution because I didn't know what would happen.
So you're withdrawing that request?
I am.
All right. Number 33, concealing the death of another, I will give. 34, possession of the knife during the commission of a felony, I will give. Number 35, regarding possession of tools for the commission of a crime, I'll give. Number 36 is the statutory definition. 37, regarding tampering with evidence, I'll give. And then, again, on the aggravated assault definition, it will refer to the offensive weapon rather than deadly weapon. Then you have a request on actual and constructive possession. I assume both sides want that?
My only question, Your Honor, would be how, like, where you plan to place that. Would that be in reference, because the only place I think it's appropriate is with respect to the weapon possessions,
Yeah.
because that's the only thing where it's a possession.
And that's where I would give it.
I mean, I assume you'll read it once collectively for each of the, at the or at the beginning or at the conclusion is my point, of all of those possession of weapon counts.
The tools for
There's 5 additional counts of possession of tools. I'm just asking the court where you intended to place it.
when I give the definitions of those crimes.
So you're gonna read it 6 times?
No.
That's what,
Once.
yeah, that's what I'm asking, Judge, at the beginning or at the end, do you know, or not yet?
As I give the definitions, probably at the conclusion
Okay.
of the definitions of the possession
You'll refer to
charge.
them, okay,
Yes.
that's fine, Judge, I have no objection to that.
Venue, they've requested I'm going to give the same venue charge I just read a moment ago. The verdict charge, obviously, is from the pattern charge, and I'll give that. Number 42, that the court has no interest, I'll give that. On the sympathy charge, Mr. Weinstein has added an additional paragraph about being influenced by all kinds of things, race, creed, color, religion. I don't intend to give that paragraph.
I have no objection to removing that
Okay.
paragraph. I believe I pulled that from the pattern, but I could be mistaken.
Now that, I don't think that's a part of the pattern. Then the charge on deliberations, jury deliberations, I'll give that. Unanimous verdict I'm gonna give, but there, Mr. Weinstein, the very last paragraph on page 48, I'm not gonna tell them, anytime you wanna come back out and hear videos and more evidence, feel free. I'm not gonna give them that charge.
No objection.
All right, I believe that completes all of the charges that have been requested by both sides. Anything else from counsel?
I would just ask for 10 minutes before we.
I'm going to give you that 10 minutes, and I'm going to announce to everyone here in court that in about 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to hear the closing arguments made by the attorneys. I'm going to ask that you please refrain from going back and forth through the door. If you want to be here for the closing arguments, I'm going to ask that you stay here. If you leave, I'm going to ask that you not come back. But the closing arguments will probably take a couple of hours. But out of respect for the parties and for the attorneys in the case, I want to keep the clutter down to a minimum. And at the conclusion of the closing arguments, what I expect to do, that'll probably get us close to 5 o'clock. What I expect to do is adjourn for the day. Come back tomorrow morning. I will then give the charge of the court explaining the law to the jury and allow them to begin their deliberations. The charge of the court normally takes about 30 minutes. So that is the schedule that I anticipate following. And so we'll come back in about 15 minutes and hear the closing arguments made by the lawyers. All right, thank you. Thank you.
I'm surprised. I'm also surprised they're doing jury instructions after. I know you said you looked it up, Ken, but I used to think that too. And I remember in one trial, I don't remember who I was watching it with, but I was watching it on an attorney's channel. And I remember asking why they were doing it before. I said, isn't it confusing to do that before? And they said no, because they want it to be fresh in the jury's mind while they're listening to closing arguments, which is why I gave you the answer that I did. So I'm confused now, because I'm used to it either being before closing arguments or like part of it before and part of it after. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, this is crazy. Crazy. I am, that was the fastest charging conference ever. Usually that's the part that kind of holds stuff up a little bit. Because they go over and over and they hem and they haw and get me a copy of your charging instructions and blah, blah, blah. And it's crazy. And this is just like boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that is the fastest charging conference ever, y'all. They don't mess around in Georgia. So I guess tomorrow we can finish the Phil Spector closing arguments. Are we caught up all the way? Yep. We can finish the Phil Spector defense. We've got defense closing arguments, and then petition rebuttal. Well, because it was a hung jury. We have some other stuff that was done outside the presence of the jury. Something about something about one of the charges or jury instructions or something that they were confused about, which I think is what caused the hung jury in the first Phil Spector trial. Also, I was going to do members only on Saturday. But why, StreamYard? Why? Why? Why did you do that? If we can finish Phil Spector tomorrow, then maybe I'll do my members only live on Friday. Because Judy is amazing. She got me my proctor's pay report. Ooh, I wonder if we should look at... Have you watched any of Lowry's testimony in the, I can't remember the name of that case, Judy. What is the name of that case? I know you know it. I've seen Peter Trago saying how apathetic he is about Proctor, because basically Lally wants Proctor to get search warrants or whatever, but then he doesn't follow up on it. Because Miles King, thank you. I don't know why I can't remember that name. But he doesn't follow up on it because, and he says like, well, because the discovery deadline came up. Well, that's not what that means. If there's something to be discovered that comes up after the discovery deadline, it doesn't mean that you can't turn it over or that you don't have to turn it over just because the discovery deadline has come up. If there's something discoverable that happens that you find out about after the deadline, you still have an obligation to turn that over as discovery. And Lally's just like, oh well, discovery deadline came up, So what? I couldn't do it because the discovery deadline came up, and that's not. And he knows what that means. Just like he's, the apathy in his voice is just telling. He just doesn't care. So I don't know. I might look at that. I don't know how long it's gonna take to go over the IA report. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because I don't know anything about the Miles King case. I imagine it's bad. Because there's probably some stuff that should be allowed that's not going to be allowed because Proctor and Lally screwed it up. But if you guys want to hear me cuss, because it's not me, 17 pages. Okay, that'll be enough. I won't have to do anything more. It'll take me long enough to get through that. I will be cussing on my members only live stream because I will be quoting Proctor. It will not be my words. It will come out of my mouth, but it will not be my words. So if you want to hear Debbie Cook drop an F-bomb, be at my members only live stream that I was going to do Saturday, but I might do Friday depending on how this all plays out. I was going to just say F, but oh, what did he do? Like, what is he charged with? I should find out. So has his trial started yet? These are just pretrial hearings, right? Oh, and something else that I learned that I know. My friend sent me last night. We were coming home. Travis and I went out for dinner last night. We were on our way home, and I get a message from my friend with a link to a YouTube video, and she's like, I am 3 minutes into this, and if it's true, wow. And I start watching it, and it's a video from Microdots, who I don't know his real name, but he was friends with John O'Keefe, and it's a video, it was a 45-minute documentary that he put together about the cover-up of the Karen Reed case, which starts with Chris Albert and his drunk driving conviction, where Peter, I forgot his last name, died, and that Judge Cannoni's brother represented him, and he got 6 months in jail instead of the 15 years in prison that he should have got. And so I paused the video, and I texted my friend. I said, did you not know that Bev's brother represented Chris Albert for that accident? And she said, no, Berger. She said, no, I did not. She goes, I knew, I had heard that she was friends with them. And I said, oh yeah, that's why they wanted her to recuse herself, was because of that. Not because of the relationship between her and them, but because of the brother representing Chris Albert. And that documentary, you guys, you need to go watch. Go to Microdot's channel. Let me see. Wait. It's called The Cover-Up: Fear, Intimidation, and Loyalty in the Karen Reed Case. And it's on Microdot's channel. It lays it all out. All the relationships everything. It is great. It's about 45 minutes long. It is wonderful. And I did learn something I didn't know. Judy, remember I was talking about that one interaction that Turtle Boy had with Tristan Morris? That I was saying that I thought that Turtle Boy was like going a little too hard on him, and like we were talking about harassment and how I thought he went a little too hard on Tristan. I didn't know that Tristan had a little cover up done of his own. He hit a pedestrian and that got covered up. So, and he was on the list to be a cop in Canton, but he withdrew his name after that happened. So, oh, thank you, Judy. So, yeah, he's in there thick as thieves with the rest of them. So they've started on the next generation because he's married. He wasn't at the time that he hit the pedestrian, but he's married to Caitlin Albert now, who is Brian Albert's daughter. So they're starting in on the next generation of Alberts being a cover-up. And Travis is like, and I was watching it because we were coming home from dinner, so I'm watching it in the car on the way home. And Travis is listening to it, going, I don't understand. They're no different than you or me. I just don't understand. How come nobody can get these people? They need to get him for murder. And I'm like, I know, but they're not ever going to. It's not ever going to happen. It's not going to happen. So here's the link. So yeah, go check out that documentary. It is very, very good. There's also one on there about Officer Dever, who I prefer to call Officer Deaver, just because it pisses her off. I've not watched that one yet, but I want to. His videos are done very, very well. He was a personal friend of John O'Keefe's. He's not just a YouTuber out there making stories. He was a friend of John's. And he even made a point in the one I was talking about that I watched last night, of saying that he was just, and this was when Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy, was in jail. It must have been one of the pretrial hearings, because I don't think he was in jail during any of the trial. But Jen McCabe, and I think maybe her sister was with her. I don't remember who it was. But so Microdots was there with a camera, but because he said that he felt weird because Aiden wasn't there with him. It was just him. And they were walking into the courthouse, and they made a point to let him know that they knew who he was, because they said hi to him. Even though he wasn't talking to them or anything, he was kind of off by himself, just filming people as they walked into the courthouse. He wasn't saying anything, he wasn't taunting anyone or anything, he was just filming. And they made a point to say hi to him, just to let him know they knew who he was. But I kept trying to tell Travis, explain, people in Canton are afraid of the Alberts. And I didn't even, because my husband is so sweet, y'all, you just don't even know. He doesn't understand fear and intimidation. And he's just such a sweet man.
In the gallery again, as we hear the closing arguments, please maintain decorum. Please no reactions or any noises or anything of that nature. Let's try to be as respectful as we possibly can. So does the state intend to use both arguments?
No, Your Honor. I advised Mr. Weinstein I was going to defer and simply close.
Then I'll just recognize Mr. Weinstein first.
That's fine.
All right, let's bring the jury in.
didn't even try. I didn't even go into expose people in Canton got threatening them and threatening to expose secrets about them that were actually lies, and I didn't even go into all that because he would still say, "Well, they should arrest them for that." Then I can just hear him say that, like. That all of his crap needs to be just dropped. All of that needs to be dropped. I'll be right back. I need to go get something.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you might recall when we began this trial, before the opening statements, I told you that the opening statements and the closing arguments cannot be considered by you as evidence. They're not evidence, they're arguments. The only evidence that you can lawfully consider in arriving at your verdict will be the sworn testimony that you've heard over the last week and a half, all of the exhibits, documents that have been lawfully introduced for your consideration. That's the evidence. The closing arguments, again, are not evidence. They're intended to help you see the case in a light most fair case. And I ask Mr. Weinstein, you may proceed for the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to begin by thanking you for all of your attention that you have spent and the time that you've spent over the last 2 weeks listening to the evidence in the case, paying attention to the witnesses, taking time away from your work, your friends, and your family. So I want you to know that we certainly appreciate that, and I think all of us appreciate that, so thank you. Nicholas Kassotis has lied to many, many people. He has left a wake of emotional distress amongst a number of his friends and family. His parents, Linda and Wayne, who you've seen throughout this trial behind him, were shut off by him because he believed that for some reason his father Wayne was after him. He told people all kinds of lies about his parents, that they weren't his real parents, that he was abused growing up, that his real parents were somewhere in England, that he was kidnapped, taken to the US, caused tremendous pain to them. He caused pain to all of the friends that he lied to for those years. And you heard from him. On top for Cameron, took $200,000 beyond the reasonable that Kassotis lied. That Nick Kassotis took advantage of people like Cameron. You see and you heard what Nick Kassotis did with some man called Commonwealth. As she told you, it's very difficult to get. He treated I'm sure the state will talk a lot about Jim McIntyre. But this trial is not about whether there is or is not a Jim McIntyre. This trial is not about whether you believe that there's a Jim McIntyre running around or you believe that Nicholas Kassotis committed these crimes beyond a reasonable. This isn't a trial about Jim McIntyre. This is a trial, unfortunately, about Mindi Kassotis. So I'm going to ask you to look at those facts. Look at the facts that the state has presented and make your decision based on those facts. The GBI did an incredible job in investigating the death of Mindi Kassotis. Agent Sands is a fantastic. His partner, I'll call him the partner, did a fantastic job at the crime scene. But they very quickly zeroed in on Nicholas Kassotis. And as far as their investigation of Nicholas Kassotis, we could not have been. They pulled all of his bank information. They looked at credit cards, Airbnb documents.
Why is the screen purple?
Host of exhibits that you will all have access to, showing all of his movements, his GPS movements of his vehicle. Everything. Did you hear? Nobody's perfect. And as great as Agent Sands and his team are, they didn't follow everything, right? Jim McIntyre. They had a number of leads on Jim McIntyre's all over the place. What is the Jim McIntyre lead they followed up on? The one that was convenient. The one that was over here in Savannah, near the law office where Miss Mebane worked. That's the one they followed up on. The crime scene. They picked up a cigarette box that was in the road. Halfway between the location of Mindi Kassotis' torso and one of these totes over here. They picked that up. What did they do with it? As far as the evidence that's been admitted, nothing. Why no analysis? Why not look for DNA on the box? Maybe find leads? Because they had already decided. As soon as they saw video from that camera of the husband's car near the scene of the body, the investigation for suspects was effectively over. That was it. They had their guy. Nick Kassotis was their guy. They didn't need to follow up on that cigarette pack. How many other cars were captured at the pumping station that day, or those 3 days that I asked? Numerous cars. Were any of those cars followed up on? These are cars going by a scene where Mindi Kassotis' body is found. What investigation took place on all of those other people that went by where that body was? Nothing. Nothing. Why not? Because they had their man. He's sitting right over there. He's the guy that did it. We don't need to look into anyone else. All that we need to do is pour all of the resources of the GBI, FBI resources from Agent Bernie with his cast. Let's direct everything into Nick Kassotis, because we have our guy. He did it. When they arrest Nick Kassotis, what does he do? Does he take advantage of his constitutional rights? He's a lawyer. Any lawyer worth a damn is not going to talk to law enforcement if they are a suspect. Any lawyer worth a damn tells their clients, do not speak to law enforcement. You have a constitutional right. Let me tell you all the reasons it's a bad idea. He didn't just have a JD. As you heard the state point out, he's a former prosecutor. He's a former defense attorney. He's speaking to law enforcement. Why is he doing that? Because as totally insane as the Jim McIntyre story is, he has nothing to hide. He lived that Jim McIntyre story. He lived it. This isn't fiction that writer Nick Kassotis makes up upon arrest. I mean, he's good. He sold a story to Sony, but he's not that good. He's not that good that he could make up a story and then retroactively have lived it. He lived the Jim McIntyre story for years before the arrest, for years before Mindi Kassotis' murder. They actually lived like that. Mindi lived like that. Both Mindi and Nick told people the same story about security details. I don't know whether Mindi necessarily said Jim McIntyre, but they discussed it. They lived it. He didn't make it up later. So when he's arrested, and when Agent Sands and now Investigator Frost go up to Pennsylvania, go up to Lancaster County, and he doesn't have anything to hide. As a matter of fact, it seems to me he's trying to figure some things out. What's going on here? I thought my wife had died. I'm being arrested for her. This is nuts. This is this crazy Kafka-esque world that he is in, or he is tormented, played with by someone calling themselves Jim McIntyre. Moving 50 plus times? Who voluntarily does that unless they believe the threat on their lives? Nick Kassotis says, go in the back. I'm not concerned about any of this evidence. I want you to go back there and spend as much time as you need. Look at everything they have against Nick Kassotis. Look at it all. Study in detail. Don't rush. Take time. In Pennsylvania, to the second interview down here, where he's clearly exhausted from having flown down, tells pretty much the same story. He gets on the stand here. He tells pretty much the same story.
I'm sorry, guys. Belle needed me.
Does he take advantage of his constitutional rights? He's a lawyer. Any lawyer worth a damn is not going to talk to law enforcement if they are a suspect. Any lawyer worth a damn tells their clients, do not speak to law enforcement. You have a constitutional right. Let me tell you all the reasons it's a bad idea. He didn't just have a JD. As you heard the state point out, he's a former prosecutor. He's a former defense attorney. He's speaking to law enforcement. Why is he doing that? Because as totally insane as the Jim McIntyre story is, he has nothing to hide. He lived that Jim McIntyre story. He lived it. This isn't a fiction that the writer, Nick Kassotis, makes up upon arrest. I mean, he's good. He sold a story to Sony, but he's not that good. He's not that good that he could make up a story and then retroactively have lived it. He lived the Jim McIntyre story for years before the arrest, for years before Mindi Kassotis' murder. They actually lived like that. Mindi lived like that. Both Mindi and Nick told people the same story about security details. I don't know whether Mindi necessarily said Jim McIntyre, but they discussed it. They lived it. He didn't make it up later. So when he's arrested, and when Agent Sands and now Investigator Frost go up to Pennsylvania, go up to Lancaster County, and they want to speak to Nick Kassotis, he speaks to them. He doesn't have anything to hide. As a matter of fact, it seems to me he's trying to figure some things out. What's going on here? I thought my wife had died. I'm being arrested for her murder. This is nuts. This is this crazy Kafka-esque world that he is living in, where he is tormented, played with by someone calling themselves Jim McIntyre. Moving 50 plus times? Who voluntarily does that? Unless they believe there's a real threat on their lives. So he talks to them. He talks to them. Now the state's going to claim that he's inconsistent in what he says and what Nick Kassotis says. Go in the back. I'm not concerned about any of this evidence. I want you to go back there and spend as much time as you need. Look at everything they have against Nick Kassotis. Look at it all. Study it in detail. Don't rush. Take your time. Take your time. Because his story, what he tells people, is pretty much the same. From the first interview in Pennsylvania to the second interview down here, where he's clearly exhausted from having flown down, tells pretty much the same story. He gets on the stand here. He tells pretty much the same story. Why? I believe it was Agent Sands, or it could have been Investigator Frost, that said, you know the story about Tom Sawyer, it's easier to keep the truth straight. Lies are hard to keep straight. That's true. That's true. And there's a few inconsistencies, but there's been a lot of time. But he tells the same story. He is open with them because he has nothing to hide. Because he did not kill him. You don't arrest a man unless you got more than that. You don't do that to somebody. All right, Airbnb. What do they have there? There's a futon that has some of Mindy's blood on it. There's a little bit of blood that appears to have maybe been cleaned up off the floor, and a barely visible amount of blood. You can see with their special chemical substance. You can see that on the wall, a little bit. Not enough to photograph. It's so light you can't even photograph it. But you heard testimony they found a little bit there. But you know what else you heard? How was Mindi Kassotis probably murdered? She had 9 lacerations on her skull. 9. And I asked the medical examiner, there are a lot of veins that run through the skull, a lot of blood that comes up here in your skin. Oh yeah, there are. How much blood are you going to get when you strike somebody with a hard object? Hard enough to do that kind of laceration. A lot of blood. A lot of blood. What about 2 lacerations? Even more blood. That was the testimony. You heard it. What about 9? That's a lot of blood. A lot of blood was not found at the Airbnb. Oh, well wait. He cleaned it up. He did some amazing job of cleaning up all that blood. Did he buy any tarps? I didn't hear anything about that. So he cleaned all that blood up? I mean, that's not reasonable. We asked the owner of the Airbnb, when you came there, did you smell cleaning products? Anything? Bleach? No, she didn't smell anything. All right. Let's keep working for the state. What else do they have? Well, he's a big old liar, right? Let's see. And a deadbeat, right? He owes his first wife $1.5 million. Doesn't give her that. Okay. So, therefore, let me think this theory. He owes his first wife $1.5 million, so he kills his second wife. How does that work? How does that resolve anything? Okay, forget that theory. Let's try another theory. He kills Mindi so that he can run off to Pennsylvania and go woo and marry his third wife, Samantha. You kill Mindi over that? He knows how to get divorced. He did it once before. He divorced his first wife, Heather. So he knows how to get divorced. He also...
And ended up owing her $1.5 million.
But they're going to have you believe that... I don't know what they're going to have you believe, but I imagine they're going to say, well, he did it so he could run off with Samantha. Does that make any sense? Now, they don't have to prove motive. I don't want to put that in your head. You're going to hear the judge tell you they don't have to prove motive. But they still have to prove that Nick Kassotis committed these crimes, the 12 counts that he is facing, beyond a reasonable doubt. That is an incredibly high standard, beyond a reasonable doubt. You may be sitting here right now thinking, I think he probably did it. I think he probably did it. That's not high enough in our country. Probably did it doesn't work. I think it's more likely than not that he did it. I really, really think he probably did it. That's my gut feeling. That doesn't cut it either. We have protections in this country. The state has an incredibly high burden to meet. They have to work so hard because they have got to show guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You'll hear the judge explain all of this to you. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you, well, all they have is circumstantial evidence. Like if you watch movies and TV, you'll hear people say, oh, it's just circumstantial evidence. You can absolutely, as you'll hear from the judge, convict people on circumstantial evidence. But that circumstantial evidence still has to show guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And they haven't done that. They just haven't done that. So he's charged with murder. Malice murder. They haven't shown you that he murdered Mindi Kassotis. They showed you he was near where the body was at some point. But they don't have a weapon. They don't have to have a weapon, but they don't have a weapon. Where's the weapon? They don't know where she was killed. They don't know where she was dismembered. All they really have are questions. But they're going to want you to think they got all the answers, or most of them. Now, what are they going to say, I anticipate, about the answers they don't have and the questions that remain? Oh, we don't have those answers to those questions because my client did such an amazing job of hiding things, confusing things, obfuscating, trying to keep that evidence around. Well, that argument works no matter who is sitting at the defense table. It doesn't point to Mr. Kassotis. That's an argument that can be made to convict any innocent man. You need to only follow the judge's instructions. Look at the evidence you've heard in here. Look at what you can take in the back and decide based on that whether he committed malice murder or felony murder. I think you're going to have difficulty doing that. And the reason why is, frankly, he didn't do these things. Let's look at the other charges. Aggravated assault. You're not going to see evidence that he assaulted Mindi. Now, the state may say, well, just look at the lacerations on her head. That's evidence that he assaulted her. But keep in mind, when the state makes their arguments to you, no one is denying that Mindi Kassotis was horribly murdered and grotesquely dismembered and tossed away. But that is not the only thing they have to show. They have to show beyond a reasonable doubt that Nick Kassotis is the one that did that. Concealing the death of another. Someone tried to conceal her death. No denying that. You don't do the terrible things that were done to Mindi Kassotis unless you're trying to conceal someone's death. That's why you do that. Possession of a knife during commission of a felony. Well, I don't think they've shown any kind of a felony from Nick Kassotis. A knife? Yeah, he had a knife. We all have knives. He had a knife. He bought that Milwaukee knife. That who knows where it is now. Mr. Kassotis says it burned up in his car. He bought a knife. Was that knife that he bought used in the commission of a felony? Not that the state has shown. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. The deer processing knives, again. Did he possess those? At one point, he bought them at Bass Pro Shop. During commission of a felony? Not that the state has shown. Tools for the commission of a crime? No. No. Removal of body parts from scene of death. You heard from Agent Sands they don't even know where the scene of death is because how horrible this murder was. Tampering with evidence. Obviously, evidence was tampered with, but there's not sufficient evidence to show that Nick Kassotis was involved in that beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, you may think I'm clinging to beyond a reasonable doubt, but I point to that because that is the standard that we have. That is the standard that this judge is going to instruct you. That is the high burden that the state has. Mindi Kassotis was viciously murdered and frankly butchered. Everyone should be upset and beyond distraught over that. It is I don't have the right words for how terrible that was. And then to be cast off, tossed in the woods for animals to rot. Your emotions likely are and should be running high. But I'm going to ask you to do what to me could feel like the impossible. I'm going to urge you to do this. Set the emotions aside. The state has only presented you with one person that you can make pay for Mindi Kassotis' death. My client, Nick Kassotis. So I understand the instinct for justice. I understand the instinct to want to have someone to blame, to want to have someone to hold accountable. But what I urge you to do, is to really serve justice. Really serve justice. And listen to the judge and decide, has the evidence that has been presented to you by this amazing team of prosecutors and investigators, has that risen to the level of proof beyond reasonable doubt in any of these charges? I think that if you can set aside that emotional gut reaction that we all have, especially when seeing these horrible photos, and candidly, logically, rationally assessing evidence, you won't be able to find it beyond a reason. Thank you for your attention, and again, for all the time that you've committed to this
So
case.
he deferred again? Is that why he went first?
Thank you, counsel. Statement may conclude.
Thank you.
Doesn't want to read your lips?
It's showing my desktop instead of the presenter. Try again. I just turned it off, turn it back on.
It's not going on, it just lit back off on. Yes, Miss Tiffany.
Okay.
couldn't be a court reporter, especially with the mouth thing, because I wouldn't be able to talk when some of these bombshells get dropped. I'd be talking, then I'd be going, oh shit.
It showed the one that shows my name exact case.
You remember how much I said dude in the Linda Sturmer trial? Because Wolf he just could not behave. And that judge just could not control her courtroom. And I kept going, dude! Oh my God. How did they get away with that? How did they get away with that? They can't do that. That's false evidence. They can't do that.
Always helps to have two.
Okay.
May I?
All right, counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you. We're all here because of Mindi. Every single one of us is here because of Mindi. sometime the weekend over Thanksgiving, Saturday into Sunday, 2022, everything changed. For every single person that testified. Everything changed. Mindi, have you ever been to a pond and you drop a rock in the center, or if you're a kid, you used to skip it? You'd see the ripples, right? You'd see those ripples go out from where you dropped the rock. All those witnesses were ripples. And he dropped the rock. He killed her. He took her from everyone. A bright light, kind, good-natured. You're going to see a lot of things that we talked about in opening statement. My mom always told me, under promise, over deliver. Under promise, over deliver. That's what we've done. December 2nd, 2022, at about 4:50 in the afternoon, several hunters found the horrific discovery. The rock. Those hunters are ripples. Never the same. They were out there hunting Thanksgiving weekend, big hunting season in Georgia, deer, right? And they come across, I'm sorry, a headless, legless body of a woman. Law enforcement had no idea who she was for months because of him. Because he made it possible only to figure out who she was through a buccal swab from her mom. In May, almost 6 months later, he did that. Right here in Liberty County. And he dumped her in the woods. And I submit to you, he dumped her in the woods because that was a great place to hide a body. The problem is when you're not from Liberty County and you don't know Barrington Ferry Road and you don't know Jones Road and you don't know where they meet in McIntosh, you don't know there's a camera on the water tower. You don't know that there are logging trucks. You saw the logging trucks going down the road. Counsel would have you believe that Agent Sands and his team should have identified any possible human that went down that road. How is that relevant in any way, shape, or form to who would have had access to Mindi? Now, all of you promised me during jury selection you would not check your common sense at the door. You'd bring it with you, you'd evaluate the evidence, and you would use your common sense. They found a torso, a knife, tubs, and wipes. All things he had access to, all things he purchased close in time to when this happened. He bought a shovel at an Airbnb that he paid $4,500 a month for. And he's doing their handyman work. He's fixing mosquitoes for a solid 5 months. Totes that he said in the interview, black and gray. Common sense. He didn't know what was recovered at the crime scene. Black and gray. the real killer knew what color totes to put out there before he gave a statement? Common sense. You heard all about how the GBI looked for her remains, where they were recovered, where they were found in proximity to each other, over 3 miles. And he buried her head. Why? I submit to you, because that's the last thing he saw. He just didn't want to see it anymore. Some random person decides only to bury that. That doesn't make any sense. The person that buries the head is somebody that loved her. So he said, right? Loved her so much that he was clearly cheating on her. He admitted that on the stand. Heck, he told you, Joy, that was another woman. Very inconvenient to start a new relationship when you got a pregnant wife. He told you he thought she was pregnant, right? But I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Kassotis, he didn't believe she was pregnant. He wanted kids so badly. He wanted kids with Heather, right? He wanted kids with Mindi. He even went with Samantha Kolyesnik. Within days of their marriage, they went to a what? A preconception appointment. He wanted kids, and he found out Mindi wasn't pregnant. Because if Mindi was pregnant, you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't kill her, because he wanted kids. He found out she wasn't. That's the problem. Now, the judge is going to instruct you. I don't have to prove motive. The law does not require it. But it's human nature to wonder why, right? Like, we want to know why. And I submit to you, that's what the evidence showed.
Oh, she submitted.
He wanted children. He wasn't getting there. He needed another option. First divorce didn't work out so good, did it? $1.6 million that he didn't have. And the moment he came into money, what did he do? Me. I'm taking care of me. He didn't pay Cameron, who he got on the stand and said how much he respects, admires, emulates. He gave her 0. The knife. State doesn't work on suppositions. We don't guess. We don't present you with, we think, could be, maybe. Facts. Evidence only. Tool mark expert. State requested it. Defense requested, hey, look at this. How come? She told you. Lawrence Hatcher told you. You cannot test that knife on flesh. And she said that that was power tools to cut the legs, unfortunately. But ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, murderers don't generally say, hey, let me leave my murder weapon at my crime scene. But what you might leave as a prosecutor is a wiped off, cleaned up, latex hand-wearing gloves and cleansing wipes. Because that's not evidence. You can't catch me if I cleaned it off. And there he is. See, he had to admit things because we had them. The problem is, he didn't expect us to have her so soon. Now, if you're not from South Georgia, just off the road, not far enough. You need to be out in the water. But her body was heavy, that portion. I submit to you, if you look at the photographs, you'll see the weights. And I'm being respectful, because she deserves that. But look at them. Her torso and arms was very heavy. he couldn't get that far enough out. He didn't plan on us finding her that fast, is the problem. And in case you didn't believe that he was there, there are the records. That legitimately triangulates directly over Home Depot. His credit card, his car, and his phone. And if you recall during opening statement, I said to you, pay attention when he says, I did not know my car had a phone. In fact, I would say his eyebrows went almost up to his hairline. Because at that moment, Mr. Kassotis realized, oh, they got more stuff. I submit to you, there are no mosquitoes on the way down to Riceboro. He bought the knife and then drove down to Riceboro. But he got here, but he told you that he bought the knife because he needed to go and take care of the mosquitoes right then and there. You need to pay attention to the details here. And I submit to you, when you hear those details, common sense, that's all you need for this. And then you watched his car travel all the way down to Riceboro. And then he tells you, if you look carefully, I turned off my phone. But it was pinging until he got to Jones Road. Look at the map. It shows exactly where it intersects, where the ping last happens. He didn't turn it off and use a Garmin to get himself down there. He had the phone on until he got to where her body parts were. Because he didn't know that the car was still connecting to the tower. And if you look at that top box on the right side, it shows all the times that car kept pinging while he was in that area. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, the reason there's no blood in the house, or not a lot of it, is because he cut her up in the woods. He had 2 hours. 2 hours with a power saw. No one else had access to her. He told you that she went to the hospital. Common sense, right? You recall Dr. Lehman testified and he went like this. She had defensive wounds. Did she have defensive wounds in the hospital? So the doctor killed her. With defensive wounds in the hospital. Common sense. And in case it wasn't just me saying it, Agent Bernie showed you specifically the drive test to show that his phone, his car, his person, he admitted he was there. I'm not asking you to guess. He told you he was there. The defendant got on the stand and said, I was in the car. I had my phone. I had my credit card at the Marathon gas station. He swipes his card. Black tub, gray tub. How is that possible in any other way? And the judge is going to explain reasonable doubt. And I submit to you, that's his job, not mine. I'll talk some about the law, but if there's any discrepancy, you always listen to the court. Unless he put those tubs out there, there's no way he would know that a black and a gray tub would be recovered. And then her blood's in it. Facts. That's evidence. The 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, they find the rest of her remains, and they find the second tub. And you see them here. And all the efforts they made to figure out if he left any evidence behind. They brought up DNA, and did we or didn't we test this, that, or the other thing. You heard the DNA analyst say the only sample that they found that had more than one DNA profile was the futon. the futon in a house that's an Airbnb, lived in and sat on by Mr. Kassotis, Mr. Frank, Mrs. Betsy, and Mindi. So if I found DNA belonging to the defendant, the argument would be, well, he lives there. Doesn't mean he killed her, right? But now it means, well, he wasn't the one that did it. We showed you where the remains were tossed. I submit to you that's evidence of concealing a body. I submit to you that's evidence of dismemberment. I submit to you it's tampering. You saw those wipes that were used to wipe down the knife itself. There were at least a dozen of them in the crime scene photographs. They had to search 30,000 acres. Helicopters, drones, dogs, people. Mr. Glover went out and looked for her. Because you bring people home. All of her. You drop that rock in the pond, every one of them is a ripple. You don't dig up that space without a shovel. Submit to you, look at the picture. You can physically look at the picture. You can see where the root has shovel marks from where it got dug into and where it hit. He was just trying to get the dirt, but there was a root there. For people that are from this area, I fancy myself able to say that now. You hit roots. There's a lot of low roots. And there he is, buying a shovel. When you're staying in an Airbnb, living on the run, gone in an hour, he's buying tools to fix a house that he pays $4,500 a month for. Common sense. And then we do the autopsy. And why is that important? Well, because we don't know where Mindi took her last breath. I submit to you, that's because of Mr. Kassotis. 9 traumatic wounds to the head. We don't know that every wound occurred inside of the dwelling in Savannah. We don't know that. We don't know if she was strangled, if she was first subdued simply. We don't know if he rolled her up in the rug, if he took her. But we know there's blood under that rug. Rusty threw up on it. Really? There's blood under the rug. Defensive wounds on the arms that I submit to you. You're not getting beat up in the hospital. Inconsistent, and it doesn't make sense. Then there's the abdominal wounds. This goes back to Mindi not being pregnant. And you're mad! She told you she was pregnant. You're mad. That's why you bury a head. That's why you stab her in the belly. That's murder, Mr. Kassotis. Premeditated, intentional homicide. And then he cut her up. And he tossed her out like garbage. That is premeditation. And we're not required to prove that, but we have it here. Intent to kill. And even if you don't believe that at the moment he intended, you think that maybe he just wanted to hurt her, that's ag assault, aggravated assault. Felony murder. You assault somebody and then ultimately cause their death. So whether you think he started it with the intent to kill her or he just killed her in the process of the assault, one's aggravated assault felony murder, one is malice murder. And you're going to hear the judge talk about venue. Venue means where you died, where the crime itself was committed. And normally, you're going to hear that venue is the place where the crime was committed. And I submit to you, when you drop the rock in the pond and you don't know where it happens, the legislature in the state of Georgia does not allow for you not to be guilty on a loophole. If you believe that we couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt where she took her last breath, then where her body is recovered is the law. And that's why we're all here, Liberty County, with that ripple. Because her torso was found in the backyard. It took us almost 6 months to figure out who she was. Council would have you believe that everybody was like, oh, Nicholas Kassotis, that's who it is. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. You all heard that. Forensic sketches, fingerprints at the crime scene, DNA, no identity. We found it's the same person. Then Miss Betsy, she gave us a buccal swab. Heck, she didn't even believe he was a GBI agent because of Nicholas Kassotis. They believed him. And I submit to you, in hindsight, my other half said don't use any sports references. I'm not really good at it. But where I come from, it's called Monday morning quarterbacking. Right? In this case, we didn't know who she was. We find out who she is, and then they go backwards from there. They knew who Nicholas Kassotis was as early Detective Frost said that he had gotten Home Depot records. He knew as early as December 7th. They didn't arrest Mr. Kassotis. They ran down hundreds of leads through VICAP, NamUs, the Missing and Exploited Children, through the FBI. They ran down hundreds of leads. Agent Sands told you they had some that were close. They didn't know who it was until they got her DNA. And once they figured out that it was Mindi Kassotis, now he made sense. They had been running down all the leads up until that point, but they didn't know it was him until they knew it was her. The only one with access. And why is that important? Because Mr. Kassotis says his wife went to the hospital on Saturday. And he tells Joe West, she died Sunday. But doesn't tell her parents that she died until Thursday. Well, that's a problem. You told Mr. West that she died in one day. That's not a little different. That's Mindi. And I think that's important. That's Mindi. A friend, a sister, a daughter, a wife. And I submit to you, Mindi loved Mr. Kassotis. And she didn't want to lose him. I submit to you, she wasn't pregnant. Mr. Kassotis told you that he and Heather divorced because she told him she wanted kids but didn't really. That's what he told you on the stand. Mindi knew, I submit to you, that if he found out that she wasn't pregnant, she'd lose him. The doctor testified, told us the range. That's when the GBI could finally start to narrow it down. And the last person to see her alive was Mr. Kassotis. Mr. Frank said that he saw her right before they left to go to Hilton Head. And when he came back, he never saw her. They thought she was at the hospital. Mr. Kassotis didn't have a name of a doctor, a location of a place that he went to. He never visited her. His wife was 8 months pregnant, due in January, and he didn't go see her? I know you did not check your common sense at the door. He didn't go see her because she wasn't in a hospital. He didn't go see her because he knew she was dead. And he didn't ask about a baby because he knew there wasn't one. You heard those statements. He talked about a ring. I think ladies and gentlemen of the jury will know that wedding engagement rings are different for every lady. Bands are different. He claimed she was mistakenly cremated. And then he gave them back her bands. That's not possible. Because he conveniently tossed those in the Havre de Grace with no one present. All these people that needed to know that Mindi was gone, he didn't invite a soul to share her scattering of her ashes. How does that make sense? And then every day in the days following, telling her parents that she was gone, he is on the move. Quick, quick, quick. We go from Georgia, 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 all the way down to every state across the Northeast and all over, not here, in a quick rush effort to now not be Nicholas James Kassotis. And I submit to you, he knew Heather was still looking for the money. He's an attorney. You think he didn't get proof of $1.6 million paid? He didn't get a single pay stub, a single document, a single anything. Now, to be clear, it is the state's burden to prove our case. But when a defendant chooses to testify, you evaluate their credibility the same way you would any other witness, and the court's going to instruct you how that works. And I submit to you, not a word he said, not a word of that makes any sense. Jim McIntyre with the FBI, 2 years, he didn't think they were going to pay attention to his case at all, but he thinks a 2-year commitment from a FBI agent to become his personal security team, not a penny. Common sense in this courtroom, please. We follow the knife. We talked about it. Then he burned up the car. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Kassotis is an individual that capitalizes on opportunity. He had a check that he couldn't cash to buy a house with Samantha. He didn't have access to any money. He told you that. But he was getting an $860,000 check that poof went up in flames. I submit to you, because he didn't have that money. He was telling Samantha, we're getting a house. But when he had to actually buy it, he didn't have the money. Car goes up in flames. He testified, or asked questions about a recall on a police interceptor vehicle, not on his Ford Explorer. A recall that doesn't apply to the vehicle he purchased. And at first the knife was in the car, then it was, well, I think it might be somewhere else. I mean, you didn't find it there, there's another place. Well, I saw it in Pennsylvania too. And we saw the house. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, she was definitely struck. There was a bloodletting event, meaning she bled at the house in Savannah. We know that. We saw her blood. But I submit to you, her body was put to rest here in Liberty County. And we know that because we saw the evidence. Blood on the wall, blood on the futon, blood on the floor. And then we followed the car, and it was Nicholas Kassotis that happens to be the one driving right past the camera. Man, unlucky. I submit to you, he didn't bank on that camera. It looks like loads and loads of woods. If you're not from here, that's what it looks like. That tiny little pumping station. That pumping station, I submit to you, solved a murder. there's the car. If you look at those photographs, you would think he was only there for an hour, right? Looks like he came and he left. But those roads, they loop around. I submit to you, look at the photographs. Look at the satellite. Look at the maps. Agent Bernie told you that car was pinging there, total. Didn't turn back on until he's leaving the area going back up 95. He had 2 hours in the woods. I submit to you, he dismembered her out there. And then he tried to get rid of the body. And you're gonna hear testimony, or rather you heard testimony about all of the items that the indictment references. They reference the totes. They reference the knife, meaning the Milwaukee knife. They reference the deer processing kit. Oh, and now that deer processing kit was for Matthew. He's not a hunter. But it was a gift that was so important that when your wife passes, you didn't make sure that he got it? Does that make any common sense? We followed the phones, and in case you weren't sure, he went right back home. We followed his car back to the house. Y'all listen to the statements from the defendant. I submit to you, it's called consciousness of guilt. When you try to cover something up, you start telling lies. The problem is, and Agent Sands said it, when you tell a lie, it's hard to keep up with them, because then there's another hole that you got to plug up, and you got to keep telling more lies to cover up the first lies. And Agent Sands said to him, it's like a puzzle. You burned some of the pieces, you threw some of them away, but I submit to you, y'all can still see the picture. He told them she was alive when he knew she was already dead. He told Samantha she was dead before she was dead. He told people she died in different ways. He told Joe West she went in on Saturday, she became septic, she got sepsis, and she died from an infection the next day. That would have been Sunday. He told her parents Thursday. I made a list of some of the things that were inconsistent. Your recollection is what governs. Was it credible? Was it believable? You told me you would know how to evaluate somebody being truthful. Use your common sense. Talked about what Mr. West said, but on December 1st of 2022, he tells her parents that's when she passed. And then he tells some people she was cremated. Actually, he tells law enforcement that, but he doesn't tell the family. He knew and didn't tell them. He told them there was going to be a service. He didn't have any reason to think that date range was not right when Mindy's body was out there. Conveniently, exactly when he was there. That is the most unlucky man on the face of the planet. Or a murderer. Why was the divorce important? The divorce was important because he had to have a reason to be telling this whole Jim story to begin with. Nicholas Kassotis did not want to pay Heather Thomas 1 penny. He did not want to pay her the $1.6 million. And he didn't. And he absconded. And he told some story to the court about how he had $32 million. $32 billion. Dang. That's a lot of money. But now it's Mindy's fault. Oh, it's Mindy's fault that he doesn't have the money. Look at the records, the transcript. He blames Mindy. When there's a problem, well, either Jim did it or now Mindy did it. Mindi met Jim, but he never looked at credentials. Apparently, Mr. Kassotis hasn't done anything. Nothing paid, ever. Cameron, nothing paid, ever. Mrs. Kolyesnik. Driver's license, photoshopped. There was no Georgia Nicholas Stark driver's license. That, I submit to you, is manipulation. He needed another option. Look at it. It's not even the same font. They got engaged. But even worse, I submit to you, if you heard and you listened carefully to Samantha's testimony, she said at the end of November he had her tires fixed, and then he sent her flowers the next week, maybe the first week of December. When he found out his wife was dead? Really? They were remarried. And whenever there's something that he has to be held accountable, Jim told me to do it. Can't find a person that doesn't exist, I submit to you. He texted back and forth with Samantha repeatedly. Did Jim tell him to tell what to say in every text? I submit to you, there is no Jim. Jim started as a convenient reason to get away from Heather, to not pay the money. And he convinced Mindi. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, Mindi believed him. So did Cameron Nelson. So did Chris Chaplet. So did Mindy's parents. He was a decorated lieutenant, I forgot what rank he said, in the Navy. 10 years almost with the JAG. 2 tours. Of course they believed him. That's that Monday morning quarterback thing. It's easy to look at it now when you see all of this in front of you and say, who would believe that? People that didn't know all that. People that thought Nick and Mindi were telling them the truth. Mindi believed him. I submit that to you. And she didn't want to lose him. There's no ring. There's no Jim. And there was no baby. And he didn't ask about it because he knew that. I submit to you, that's why he stabbed her in the belly. He never once, in 2 hours and approximately 10 minutes in Pennsylvania, ever asked about the baby. If you just found out that your wife died by some other means, because he already knew. He never once asked about the condition of her body. I submit to you because he knew. The court's going to instruct you on the charges. I've talked about some of them: malice, murder, felony murder. There are additional charges that you're going to hear as well. And those charges include the court's going to instruct in a homicide where the crime was committed. And I submit to you, when he dropped that rock in the pond, he made it impossible to know that. Concealing the death of another. I submit to you, You saw all the ways he did that. And in case there was any question, her blood in the totes makes it clear that it was him. He got the car washed the next day. But he didn't do it. Possession of a knife during commission of a felony. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, counsel's not wrong about one thing. He didn't use the knife on the bones. Or at least we can't say for sure. Because we don't guess, as the state. We ask experts to analyze evidence, and then we submit that evidence to you. Good, bad, or indifferent. You got the whole case. The parts that can prove things, the parts that limit it, and Lauren Satcher testified she couldn't, at the outset, she could not have said that the deer processing kit was used on the bones. She knew that. The only thing she could have proven at that point was exclusion. State doesn't make assumptions. We get evidence. And that investigation kept going long after Mr. Kassotis was wrongfully arrested, is what he would submit to you, that they just focused on him. I submit to you that's not true. And the evidence shows that. Then there are the possession of the tools for the commission of the crime. I submit to you that the Ford Explorer was used to drive her body there, otherwise it wouldn't need a car wash. I submit to you that the insulation knife, unfortunately, was used on her physical body, not on her bones. He had to gain access to it. I submit to you that the deer processing kit was purchased the day before he drives down to dump her. And he's not a hunter. And for the very first time, we're hearing that he bought a deer processing kit for Matthew. It couldn't be excluded. That's what Lauren Satcher said. The tubs and the shovel. We know the tubs were used. Her blood was in them. The shovel, I submit to you, look at the photograph. And obviously removal of body parts from the scene of the death. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, her body was clearly moved about. She died at some point, and her remains were dispersed. And the tampering, if you read the indictment, it's very clear, it's specific as to what the allegation is. It's the effort to clean up or get rid of biological evidence. Nicholas Kassotis dropped a stone in the pond. And I submit to you, every person in this courtroom is a ripple. I submit to you, Mindi, she deserves your attention. This case is about her. I ask you to go in the back, look at the evidence, and come back with what is the only appropriate outcome. Guilty of all charges. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it has been a long day, but before I excuse you for the evening, I want to sort of give you an outline as to what we'll do tomorrow. I'm going to ask you to come back tomorrow morning at 8:45, around 9 o'clock or thereabouts. I'm going to read to you the law that applies in this case, and you will be duty-bound to follow that law when you begin your deliberations. That should take about 30 minutes, so after I give you the charge of the court, then I'm going to let you begin the deliberations, so finally you will be able to discuss the case and the evidence in this case. So once again, I want to emphasize tonight, please don't pay attention to any news accounts that might be out there. Get a good night's rest, and we'll be able to begin your deliberations tomorrow. So have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:45. been excused, we'll adjourn until tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right. What we're going to do tomorrow, at 9 tomorrow, we'll listen to jury instructions and go ahead and let them go back and start deliberating. And then we will do Phil Spector while we're on jury verdict watch. So hopefully we'll get Phil Spector done tomorrow during verdict watch. Hopefully we'll get a verdict tomorrow. And then if we get done with all of that tomorrow, then Friday I will do the members only live stream I want to do it at 10 o'clock. I was going to do it Saturday at 10 o'clock. But if we're still on verdict watch Friday, then we'll do it Friday at 9 o'clock. But if we're not done with Phil tomorrow, then we'll finish Phil on Friday. Oh yeah, her opening and her closing both was great. Was absolutely fantastic. And what I'm gonna do, I will do it is when I get off here. Okay, now listen carefully. I am going to put a list of, I have 4 that I am interested in doing. You guys add to the list of trials that you might be interested in seeing. Older trials, not current trials, older trials. And then I will put up a poll, because if you guys might want to do one that I'm not interested in covering for whatever reason. I may have a reason why I don't want to touch it. Who I have is Grant Amato. He was the I can't remember if it was Peacock or Paramount Plus. I think it's Paramount Plus. There's a documentary on him. It's called Control Alt Desire. I think he's the guy in Florida who killed his parents and his brother because they wouldn't keep loaning him money to talk to a cam girl. Robert Bardo, this is another old one. It's older than Phil Spector. He killed Rebecca Schaefer, who was an actress that he had a crush on. And of course, Daryl Brooks. Y'all know Daryl Brooks. And Chandler Halderson. He was the guy that supposedly, he told his whole family he had a job at SpaceX, and he supposedly was going to college, and he wrote all these fake letters from the college to his dad, and like another kind of situation like this where he had this whole fake life, and then was trying to keep it quiet from his parents. He ended up killing his parents. So those are the 4 I have on my list that I am willing to cover for y'all. If there are any other ones that you guys are interested in that you might want. So I'm going to make a post for you guys to submit suggestions. And then I'm going to make a poll to see which trial we are going to do next for our trials of the past. And everybody, member or not, is allowed to suggest and vote for that. So, suggestions first and vote later after all the suggestions are in, and I will give you guys through the weekend at least. Maybe longer, depends. I don't know what we're doing next week. I really have no idea. So, I think Adelson starts on the 19th. I know we missed one of her pre-trial hearings. So we might go back and watch that next week. If we have nothing else to do. So. Sound good, y'all? I'm only here because of you guys, so let me know. If that sounds like crap, let me know that too. Okay, I guess it's all good. All right. Okay, guys, I will see you in the morning at 9. We are doing Phil tomorrow, but we're doing it after jury instructions in this case. So, this first tomorrow. So, 9 o'clock. So, not 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. So, I will see you guys then. You guys are quiet. Why are you quiet? Why are you so quiet? Yeah, that's why it's on the list, Ken, because that was your suggestion. Okay. All right. Be kind to people. Love your family. And Jesus loves you, and so do I. Bye, guys. Have a great evening. I will see you in the morning at 9. Behave, because I don't have bail money. Don't call me.